Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special Friday. Let's make sure everybody can hear and see us. I have too many windows open over here, so I'm just gonna, if you can hear and see, I'd appreciate it. Austin Walker, I'm gonna introduce you first.
Hello.
Hello. I'm not gonna leave you hanging here because you're gonna be talking probably for the majority of this next thing, though. We'll explain why. Yeah, and you never know. You never know. Brad Shoemaker, Alex Navarro, welcome to this very special Friday.
Welcome to the moon hopping.
Austin, we are here to play Realis.
We are.
And you're pretty familiar with this game, right?
Yeah. I've been thinking about it for a few years now. Realis is a tabletop RPG that I just released in what's called an ashcan form, which is, it's sort of like early access in video games, except there isn't the expectation of like constant updates. It's kind of like, here's a big preview build, then I'll be back in a year with the rest of it. You know what I mean? Realis is a diceless RPG of, like you said, moon hopping adventure. The tone and the kind of aesthetic of it can blend anything from, kind of swashbuckling space piratery adventures to berserk inspired, dark metal space adventures. We were pretty much always in space. That's not always true. I ran one game that's like entirely on a single moon, and it's kind of like a medieval moon, and so that one may as well just been a pretty traditional fantasy game, except sometimes spaceships and space elevators showed up. It is a diceless game, which I think will be a first. Maybe we ran one other thing that was diceless once back in the Giant Beast days. But it's a diceless game, but it still kind of has a little bit of crunch to it, a little bit of tactical thinking. The core of the game is that players and their player characters have a set of 4 sentences that make up what their skills are. If you've played something like Fate, it's a little bit like aspects. So for instance, you might have, I mentioned Berserk already. One of the first classes in the book, at least right now, is the Berserker. The Berserker has 4 sentences. Those sentences are: I always kill my foe, I always carry an unstoppable weapon, I always learn through violence, and I always hurt those close to me. As you play and as you fail, those sentences slowly become what's called more real. They become more realized. They go from these big, archetypal, broad, painting with the broad, brush style ideas about the character, and they get both more powerful and more limited. These start as all +0 sentences, but eventually they become like +1, +2, +3 sentences. And each time they get one of those pluses, they get a little added modifier or qualifier that reduces the breadth at which they could be used. So Guts starts Berserk with "I always kill my foe," but by the time we get to like where it is now in that comic, rip to Kentaro Miura, it's like, "I always kill my foe when my friends are in threat and I'm the only one who can take the necessary action," or something like that. Which means that in that scenario, Guts doesn't get to just jump someone in the street using "I always kill my foe" anymore. At the beginning of the game, he could just kill whoever he wants, whenever he wants, no problem. But because he's been chipped away at like a sculpture, eventually he becomes a different version of who he is. Today, we're going to be playing with some characters that already have some sentences realized. We're not coming in like a fresh campaign 0, everyone's at +0, because I wanted to show off some of that stuff. Do y'all want to take us through some of your characters in this moon hopping death metal adventure?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Who should go first? Yeah. I can go first. I'm very excited.
You should go first.
I should say I'm super excited to play this.
Thank you.
But I read through it. Austin was awesome. Like much more. I was expecting a lot, but this is much more realized than even I was expecting. It feels like you have thought about this quite a bit. All right. Let's take it over to our sheets here. Hold on a second here.
Really, I
have a couple of pages to jump between.
Yeah.
But go ahead and go over to your sheet first.
Okay. Yes.
There we go.
Celix Clavitron.
So Celix, not Celix. Celix.
Celix.
Okay.
Because
Like Felix.
Like Felix, because I was thinking like a repairman, and then I had to make it fantasy. So Celix.
Yep.
Yeah.
Celix Clavitron is a good fisher. Austin, do you kind of want to explain what the archetype good fisher is?
A good fisher is like a regular guy, This is now here's a real Austin Walker special. Good Fisher is like the slang term they use in the first town of Dragon's Dogma to refer to you. It's like cousin, you know? It's like, oh, what's good with you today, Good Fisher? And it's just like an average laborer, an average guy, an average person who's like getting through the day. I think thematically, it's sort of the fish out of water when a regular person gets wrapped up in something bigger than themselves. And so the sentences begin with stuff like, I always put in an honest day's work, which you have realized in a very funny way, which I love. And then like there's always the fourth sentence on every class is always something that feels like it kind of bite you in the ass a little bit, but on purpose. There's a couple of mechanics in the game where you want to fail, either because failing lets you mark a sentence, which is what lets you rank it up eventually, lets you realize it. But also sometimes you want your token back. And one way that you can get your token back is by using a sentence to get you into trouble. And so yours is, I always struggle against my roots. The reason my roots is in those kind of florons, those like leaf symbols, is because certain classes have what are called hallmark sentences that they have a little bit extra that the player fleshes out, because otherwise it's just like a +0 sentence is the thing it is. But things like, I always struggle against my roots, or I always carry an unstoppable weapon. The unstoppable weapon is also in those sorts of florons, because it's like, hey, define what that is for me. What is your unstoppable weapon? In this case, what are, I mean, I actually, you gave me what Celix's roots are, and it's this little backstory that I've had to reduce down to a size 5 font to fit into the backstory section here. Also, really quick, I want to shout out two people who made these sheets. I did not make this version of the sheets. Takuma Okada and Brendan McLeod, who are both incredible tabletop designers in their own rights, made these sheets. They are also play testers on the game for the last couple of years, and shout outs to them. But anyway, Vinny, if you go back over to your sheet and then scroll all the way over to the right, you can see I added an extra large backstory.
Oh, I do see it. You can't see it
Very nice.
in the
Just
thing
for
here,
you.
but yeah, I can see
You
it.
want to summarize what your backstory is, what your deal is?
Sure. Yeah. My generally Celix works on a planet where like a kind of lower middle class to lower class, kind of just scraping by day to day, are at the mercy of giant corporations and criminal syndicates that run everything in this kind of derelict or older self-contained city state where things are just breaking constantly. Oxygen scrubbers, you know, the whole thing. There's water's falling apart. And Celix just gets by kind of tinkering, engineering, fixing, everyday handyman, keeping everything up and running. Feels like it is a very honest way to keep everybody going. It's kind of a little chipper, feels pretty good. And then one day, Celix fell in love, and turned out the woman he fell in love with was actually hiding from that was part of a criminal syndicate and was trying to lay low. They had a kid together. He didn't know this until she vanished after basically the heat was off, disappeared. He raised his daughter. Then around 16, I think I put there, the wife came back, now the head of this criminal organization, and recruited their now prodigy daughter, who actually has this knack for getting into all sorts of systems pretty easily. And then she disappeared. And Celix's dream is to just see his daughter one more time before he dies and make it right.
Love it. Fantastic.
Make it right.
All right. Let's move over one sheet to Brad, maybe. Unless you have any questions.
Right.
I guess one more thing on the sheets. Let's go back. We can do it here, actually. Let's start with the impulse on your character. I guess, what's your character's name, Brad?
Flugartha.
Flugartha.
Okay.
You're playing a witch. Is Flugartha a he/him witch?
Yes.
Or
yeah,
a different?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay,
I considered making. I considered making even that indeterminate, but
yeah, that's absolutely fine. Listen, witches moving in all sorts of ways. Every class has an impulse. This is another feature of the class on top of things like its sentences. And that includes, for the witch, the impulse respond to an urgent problem with a ritualistic means. You'll see means is capitalized. Means are anything that you can use to use in a conflict. A conflict is like where you would normally roll dice in a game. We just call that a conflict. And so those are your class sentences. your bonds, which we'll also go over at some point, and then a list of things called ephemera, which are, I think right now you should all have no ephemera, but you might get some as we play. Ephemera are like narratively charged objects. The Master Sword is an ephemera. And it's especially an ephemera because if you think about the way the Master Sword works, when you first get it in any Zelda game, it's like, yo, I'm so powerful. Like, this fixes everything. But by the end of the game, it's just kind of like, you need the Master Sword. This dungeon is built around the Master Sword. It's not like a big deal that you have it anymore. But all other things that are here that can be ephemera are like lucky charms or keys or immaterial things like the allegiance of a major faction that you could call on to solve something. So an impulse says, anytime that you do this thing, you will get your token back if you've already spent it. So for instance, let's say you have respond to an urgent problem with ritualistic means. Imagine that your house is on fire and the witch is like, I know a ritual for that. Let me quickly do a seance to summon the ghost of dousing fires or whatever. You're like, okay, stop it. We have to get out of here. You would get your token back. So that's one element there. Tell me about your character. Tell me about Flugartha. I want to emphasize there is an apostrophe in there after the flu.
Yeah, right. The apostrophe makes it a little bit mysterious,
Yes, absolutely.
Eldritch. I picked a witch because I first of all, I have not done a lot of tabletop, but I figured what better way to roleplay than with the ability to conjure and incantate whenever.
Yes,
just make things happen out of thin air.
Which is, you asked me this right before we started playing, actually, right? Which was like, can I just cast whatever spell I want? And the answer is like, yes, as long as the sentence allows for it, as long as you've hit whatever the requirements are.
Sure. So here's the backstory. You tell me if this is a cop-out or not. A shadowy character of nebulous origin and dubious intent joins in alliances of...
Go ahead. Finish it.
Joins in alliances of convenience, but seeks a solitary power. Harbors secret resentments and grandiose aspirations, finds order in chaos.
I think that's great for a one shot. I would say if we were trying to do like a super long running campaign, I'd be like, ooh, maybe we want a little more, but I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I was worried the lack of origin might be a little bit of a cop out, but then also when I got most of the way through this, I realized I had basically made Palpatine. So my look is garbed
is what you're telling me.
Garbed in heavy wool robes, a drooping cowl obscuring the eyes.
Perfect. Ideal.
Brad, you're buzzing a slight bit.
It's
witch voice.
Yeah, that's the witch voice. There you go.
It's the witch voice.
Witch voice coming in.
Yeah.
Still doing
I love it.
A little bit.
Yes.
How about now?
Now you sound fine.
Better.
Now you're good.
Love it.
Okay. Nothing a little power cycle won't solve, or maybe not. I don't know.
I think
you're fine. You're fine.
You're fine. Yeah, it seems all right. If it does happen, we'll just say that it's witch voice coming through.
Voice.
It's something dark in your blood coming through your voice.
The demons are moving through me.
The demons X. The demons X.
Can I take a quick opportunity to ask one question?
Absolutely. Whenever anybody has a question, please just interrupt and ask me. Yeah.
I always hide my shelter is one of my sentences. Is that like a psychological shelter, or
it's at this point it's broad in a way that you can take advantage of, right? It's only a +0 sentence, which means let's say someone's trying to find you with, I always find my foes when a bounty's been placed on their heads, for instance. You would lose to that with I always hide my shelter. But the breadth of it means it could mean a psychological shelter. It means like I always have a place I can go to in my mind to stay focused. It could mean I always have a JRPG style magical tent that I can summon and retreat into, or like into the coven of souls or something. It could mean I always am able to convert a room into a place that's like, this is my shelter now, and we've kind of like put salt around it to keep it safe. The breadth is an opportunity for you to go wild, and then again, as it gets realized, that will get smaller and smaller. I think it's really important for people playing this game not to do what I call pre-realization. I haven't written this in the book, but having run it a bunch now, a thing I run into is people go, oh, I get it. I always hide my shelter for me means I summon a little Baba Yaga hut and I get into the Baba Yaga hut. And that's awesome. You can totally do that with that sentence. And then the Baba Yaga hut like fades from existence or something. Totally possible. But that shouldn't be the only way you see the sentence at this point. The open-endedness is its strength. The character slowly, let's take the Baba Yaga style witch as an example. You could imagine someone who does the Baba Yaga witch summon or hut summoning, but also is psychologically, locked in or something. But by the end of the game, maybe they've lost that ability to lock in psychologically, and instead they literally have to retreat to the hut if they want safety, right? So that's the kind of shape of how it works.
I always hide my shelter, which is Hard Markinson's soul.
Here we go. Hard Markinson, you return.
I do. So am I up next, or is there more, Brad? Is there anything else you wanted to say? All right. So yes, Hard Markinson is in fact returning for this campaign. It seemed like the right thing to do. As with all of our campaigns, this version of Hard might not be the same one exactly from other campaigns, but so this version of Hard Markinson is a Xenagog, who, as far as I can tell, is sort of like the pilot class of the various available ones. But specifically, it is a pilot of an orphan vessel, which, as I asked about previously, are apparently ships that are not only derelict and found and then reclaimed, but also maybe bear some kind of like psychic link to the piloter. So
that is right. Yeah. It is a psychic link, or it's it's actually up to you, right?
Yeah.
You'll note that your first sentence started as, I always pilot my orphan vessel with great skill, and the orphan vessel is in those florons. That's the hallmark.
Yes.
And that means that you could decide what that means. Even inside of one campaign of Realis, one orphan vessel might be psychically linked with the ship. Another one might literally be a sort of hollowed out whale with technological implements installed, but it's still alive. Another one might have its whole consciousness in a gem in the cockpit or in the engine room or something, but they're all sentient in some way.
Right. So the way I envision
yours.
Yeah, so the way I envision my Tin Man here, Brad, that's a Star Trek reference for you.
Oh yeah.
Is most of the ship has like the shape and technological makeup of something like, let's just say, like the Defiant from DS9, but it is interspersed with pieces of bioluminescent technology on the outside and on the inside. There is like, kind of a neon glow that comes from that stuff that all kind of like feeds into the back engine room, where there is something that I would describe that looks like sort of like the gravity drive from Event Horizon, but like not quite as menacing and gothic, like a little bit more like it looks like there either is a connection to some kind of life force or is itself a life force.
Love it. I love that. And this is the ship that you all call home, or at least are on for this mission. I guess one other really important thing here, a couple of things. Bonds exist between characters. So for instance, you have two. You have Celix couldn't find their own ass if someone slapped it for them. Poor thing. Mm-hmm. And Flugartha is the most precious cargo my vessel ever carried. I won't ruin this job. Those are just like sentences. They're means. You can call on those when there's a conflict. So for instance, let's say Flugartha was in trouble, was like, someone's trying to attack Flugartha. You could use your bond to try to save Flugartha if that was your goal. You know what I mean? Even if you don't have another sentence that could help in that situation, that would allow it. Or likewise with Celix, if you wanted to do something similar, you could do that, right? And then related to that, if we all hop over to the band and world sheet, we don't have a name for this band. I'm just gonna write like the salvagers, or I guess they're not. You're investigating something, right? We picked the sentence kind of, but we didn't pick what the name or whatever is. I guess it could just be the crew of the, what was it again? Was it the Tin Can? The Tin Man? The Tin Man. Okay. Your band sentence is, when we work together, we always uncover what time has hidden. This is a sentence that's like one of the example sentences in the book for bands. I'm just putting in the example here. A team of researchers digging into the strange mysteries of Realis. This is a sentence that you can use if all of you unanimously decide to use it. It starts at +1. You can use it once per session. And it only works if everybody says, yeah, let's do that, because it tends to be pretty broad, right? Like, you always learn a thing that time is hidden. It's not about an action, it's about an outcome, and that's really useful, you know?
Yeah.
You'll also see there's a few other things already on this sheet that start to kind of tease a little bit about where we're going. You'll see there is a moon called Derelict 383 Black Demerit, aka the Thrummer. Everyone calls it the Thrummer, or like people in the investigation and salvage name, because it releases this strange hum repeatedly. It has an impulse also. Moons have impulses and sentences. Moons are just settings. They don't have to be literally moons. This is a derelict of what's called a grand vessel. Before you had your little orphan vessel, there in the ancient past, there were these grand vessels that were like city-states unto themselves. And this one is now called 383 Black Demerit under like some sort of new, categorization naming schema. But everyone just calls it the Thrummer because of the weird hum it has. And its impulse is give yourself to the dark. So when you do something that is giving yourself to the dark, you can get your token back. It tends to be that moon impulses drive you closer into danger or at least drama. Moons also have sentences, and these are important. There are 2 listed here. I have a list of some other ones, but one of the things you can spend your token to do in play is add more moon sentences that you wrote. So the moons are kind of neutral territory between player characters and factions and other NPCs. But when you spend your token, you can either use an established moon sentence for yourself, or you can add and use a new one. Moon sentences that you know about the Thrummer are: the Thrummer's hull is always unbreakable, and the Thrummer's scavengers always trade salvage for supplies. So there are other scavenging groups here, maybe people who've lived here as scavengers for years, and they will always trade something that they've salvaged from this vast floating city-state derelict for food or something like that. There are also some other ones that I know about that you don't know about yet, but they're not real yet. They're not, if you all decided, fuck it, let's do a token rush and fill the sheet up with our own sentences instead of Austin's, they'd be filled up, which is goofy and fun. There's also something we talked about a little bit in tone and stuff. This system has a thing called foundation sentences. You might have come across lines and veils before in tabletop games and tabletop communities. That's one way of what are called safety rules often, where it's like, hey, this is the type of thing we want to include. This is the type of thing we don't want to include. Hey, I don't like spiders. No spiders, right? In Realis, we use foundation sentences, which are written in a format similar to like character sentences. And it's a way to guide our play. It's both additive and subtractive. So, for instance, we do have our story never relies on gruesome detail. It doesn't mean they can't get gruesome, but the scene should never just be, oh, there's some guts falling out of a stomach, then like that's the whole of the scene. But it does also have additive stuff like our story always stays metal as fuck, and our story always takes the big swing now, not later. So in other words, play hard and fast. Don't, hold back something that you think could be cool, because we're not doing a session 2. Put it all on the table. I've left this kind of formatted one here. Our story will tell, but only with distance and care, ... in case someone wanted to say, hey, I don't like spiders, but I don't mind if spiders show up. Or, hey, we're telling a story about a space empire. Maybe there's slavery in the empire, but we're not telling a story about slavery. But some slaves might pop up, right? So if there's anything like that and y'all think of it, let me know. I'll add it to the list somewhere, and that'll be that. Finally, also on this sheet are factions and NPCs. And there's one main faction that is in pretend we're coming into the middle of your campaign effectively.
Right.
You've run across the Venerant Sea a few times here. I've also written sea wrong, actually. It's not sea like an ocean. It's sea like the Holy See.
Sure.
Instance, church. The Venerant Sea is the predominant religion in your version of Realis. It is a vast, powerful, and hypocritical church. They worship someone called the Immaterial One, and they believe in immateriality. They believe in asceticism. which is the way that they get people to donate all of their goods to the church, which somehow ends up in church vaults, but also, gemstones worn by, they put on the weight of needing to be the people who take all of your wealth and wear it around their chest.
We know these MFers. We know
these MFers. 100%.
Catholics.
A certain breed of Catholics, I think, historically. And then I was raised Catholic. I get to say it.
That's right.
So I wasn't. I don't.
A couple of things that that they can do are listed here, and then there are a handful of NPCs: an Inquisitor, a Zealot, and a Helmsman, a Charioteer, actually, are also all here. And you run into them a little bit, but you don't know at all what the Charioteer does. You only have one of the sentences of the Zealot, and you only have two of the sentences of the Inquisitor. These each will have 3 or 4 sentences, so there's a little bit of what do we know about them? What tricks could they pull out on us? NPCs do not start at all +0 sentences, so they might show up with a +1 or a +2 sentence that could hit you out of nowhere. So again, there's a little bit of tactical play even in this game that's primarily about words, and I think that's the gist of the broad setup, unless anyone has questions. In which case, I'm happy to answer questions.
Yeah, the saddest part of the gameplay mechanic that I found was the dream.
You're right. I skipped our dream,
and it was the most soul crushing thing that, like, in the gameplay example you give in the book, brought me to tears of this person giving up their dream.
The last thing I wanted to show off about my character actually was the dream. So if you just want to pop over my character sheet.
What is your dream for Hard?
So Hard Markinson is a pretty normal guy. Like, he literally grew up on the moon that would be most equivalent to like Space Indiana, kind of farm colony type stuff. He's just a pilot. He's just a guy who pilots ships, generally speaking. But ever since he has found this psychic bond with this ship, it unlocked something in him. Specifically, it unlocked these visions of lives that he suddenly remembers himself living in worlds that he has never experienced. And he wants to find both like what that means and also where this is coming from.
Incredible. So, mechanically, dreams are means, which means they can be used in conflicts to overcome a challenge or an uncertainty. They're the most powerful means there are. A dream always wins unless it comes up against another dream. So 2-player characters can put their dreams against each other and they'll cancel each other out. But dreams always win, but you only get one of them in your whole life. Your dream is a goal. We're not going to probably do end of session stuff, but if you're working towards your dream, you get to mark an extra sentence at the end of the session is one thing that happens, for instance. But you don't have to, when you spend it, you have to cross it out. It's gone forever. You get one once. You don't have to spend it getting your dream. You can spend it on anything. So it's sort of like that little bit in your soul that is like, I'm saving the little extra gas I need to get across the finish line when my goal is in reach. If I'm crawling through the nuclear vent in Metal Gear Solid 4, I'm drawing on my dream to get there and do the thing I need to do. But you don't have to spend it on that dream. You can give it up for something else, like saving a friend or jumping across a chasm. Like, it can truly be for anything. And you don't even lose the dream. You don't erase it. You cross it out. It's always still there. It's always still on the sheet forever. You never get to rewrite it. You never get to uncross it. So each of you also has one of those. Sometimes those are really specific little things, like seeing your daughter again and making things right. Other times, it's something more dramatic. Like, Brad, what's your dream?
Maybe a little open to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
I will become the 1,000th moon.
Hell yeah!
I have no idea what that means. Let's find out.
Do you remember the Control ending in Mass Effect, where Shepard kind of becomes the Reapers?
Yes.
Let's say this character might have a secret hidden desire to dominate all of the moons.
Incredible.
Or maybe, let's say, like, bring order to the moons in such a way that this character sits at the top of the hierarchy.
That there is a control there.
Yeah, there is something there that is about. You're not going to get you're not aiming for the Twisted Metal Calypso tricks you and twists your dream into the dark reality. The monkey paw curls, and you become a literal moon, and everybody walks around on you, and you're like, well, technically, you're the moon.
Right.
Or maybe you are going for that.
Let's say it's an embodiment of the character's inherent grandiosity and self-importance.
I love it.
Love it.
Fantastic. All right. I think that's everything on the sheets. Generally, we don't have to go sentence by sentence necessarily. So let's get into it. Everybody is aboard the Tin Man, the Hard's vessel, orphan vessel, and you're in a particular type of place in Realis. Realis is sort of an orbital sphere of 1,000 moons, all orbiting a cursed or holy, depending on who you talk to, world called Realis. It is the big blue planet in the background of the kind of hero image you're showing, Vinny, behind us. That is Realis itself, often hyphenated, Realis -itself. And it is a place that no one or very few people have ever gone to and returned from in history. I think the book suggests, or maybe it's a lore doc I haven't put in the book yet, that like 20 people in all of known history have ever gone and come back, and that's thousands and thousands of years. Everybody lives instead on these moons, the 1,000 moons that orbit around it. Below it all is this roiling abyss that kind of occasionally seems to swallow and devour an entire moon. Nevertheless, there are always 1,000 moons, so a new one must pop up when that happens. And above it all is the sun, or a sun, the corpse sun. Why is it called that? I don't know. You'd have to go and check. You'd have to go see what's going on the corpse sun. It's smaller than the giant planet of Realis. It is a sort of dim red that it does emit light, but that light is so small in comparison to the bright incandescent blue of Realis itself that it often gets washed out, except for the moons that are all near the corpse sun. The corpse sun does not get orbited by any moons. Realis's gravitational draw is higher. Not that any of this holds up to the laws of physics. We are in space fantasy here, but nothing is orbiting the corpse sun. And as far as you can tell, and I think this is to the degree that like no one even talks about these really that much outside of maybe it's like a metaphorical term. Stars don't exist in Realis. There's only moons. There are no outer stars. Beyond the orb of Realis is just darkness forever. And so sometimes you might see a pinprick of light. That's just a moon that's very far away. If you fly out there, that's a moon reflecting back Realis's own light. So that is like what the sort of solar system, the kind of, Realis system is. And in this moment, you are towards that corpse sun. You're close enough that the kind of dim red light is coming down on top of the ship, is lighting a kind of ship graveyard. There's this whole area between a few moons that has a bunch of orphan vessels that have crashed or been destroyed. Maybe there was a big war here. You're not sure. No one really knows the details of it. But kind of dominating this whole area is a gigantic grand vessel. The grand vessels were so big that you could probably fit hundreds of the contemporary orphan vessels into them. Again, there are city-states in space. They don't really match any of the contemporary architectural styles or design styles. Campaign to campaign, they can look like whatever they want. I think this one, I mentioned the word whale before. It kind of has the shape of a giant whale, but is kind of plated with an armored hull. And there are a couple of things that, these grand vessels, the derelicts of them are so strange that they do end up attracting different types of people to them. People like you, people who are investigating mysteries. I think that maybe you've gotten word there is something very valuable here, or there's a set of valuables. Maybe you just know if we can get in there, we can get a real good payday. Or it's the sort of place that has the sort of knowledge that both Flugartha and Hard might be interested in, and so you've been drawn there to try to get aboard and find some information. You're not the only one who's been drawn there, though. As of right now, there's kind of a few ways that you could theoretically get in. You could try to breach the unbreakable hull of the ship, which that seems hard. You could try to go somehow open up there's a vast aperture that can open open up that's like a docking bay, but it's sealed shut right now, and it has been for centuries probably. And then there was one like space station in orbit or it's not even in orbit because it's actually connected with a gangway to the derelict, to the Thrummer. And it is a Venerant C space station. It's sort of like a station for pilgrims to visit. So there's like, a sort of, you imagine almost like a church just hovering in space with a long, like docking arm, gangway, an enclosed gangway connecting to this giant carcass of a once grand city-state ship. And in that place, theoretically, you could dock there, talk your way through, and walk through the gangway. But those are the kind of the big, that's the image of what you see. I'd love to just get an image of each of you on the ship as action kicks off. What are you doing on the ship as you bounce around from moon to moon going on adventures? What's our one image of each of your characters?
Who wants to go first?
Let's go with the captain, the pilot, the Xenagog.
Okay.
Hard.
So as we are, drifting in the direction of this giant ship and the space cathedral that is attached to it, Hard is looking straight out the view window, the front, of the ship, looking straight at it, kind of leaning back in his chair. We're a little bit on autopilot right now. We're just kind of on approach vector. And he's just kind of leaning back, cigarette kind of dangling out of his mouth, unlit. It's more of an oral fixation than it is like a need to smoke. And, he's just kind of fidgeting with it, looking at it. And there's like a little bit of tension and nervousness as he kind of looks at this thing, because I have to imagine that him and the Venerant C are maybe not the most closely aligned organizations. But as he sort of psychically, gets, like bonds with the ship itself, there is a slight calming and anti-anxiety effect that comes with that, as if the ship is reassuring him that, look, things are going to be okay. And you just feel him kind of like ease back into his chair and kind of deep sigh.
Do you talk to the ship, or is it this kind of emotional? I guess actually you could talk to the ship. My question is, does the ship talk back, or is it this emotional, not in words? I love it. Great.
It's not words. It is more like an impulse that I understand.
Cool. I love it. All right, let's go to let's go to Celix.
I think Celix is probably at the workbench in the ship, like repairing gear. Think like, I assume we have not a lot of tons of money and stuff, so it's constantly duct taping and repairing and old Ghostbuster proton pack style things of getting everything together and twisting and turning and dismantling broken salvage they found. And he's got the whatever the equivalent of this world's magnifying lenses that go down,
it's a bunch of them.
Yeah. But it's like, but it's futuristic, so they're automated and they just go on their own to like a tiny little thing. And this one has a laser pointer because that would be cool. And he's got his hands in those things that they have in weird medical facilities, but this is like the Nebuchadnezzar style thing to do like remote arms for little soldering and stuff like that. Is he's kind of zapping, but whistling, just like kind of like happy. He's got some headphones in maybe, but
what type of stuff you listening? What are you listening to in those headphones?
He's listening to the equivalent of like Credence, but whatever, like, this would
Space
be
Credence.
Yeah, Space Credence. Yeah.
Love it.
Like and he's kind of nodding along, but he's always kind of daydreaming about like his kid. He just like wondering, like, she's forever trapped at like 14, 15 in his mind.
How many years ago was that?
I was leaving it indeterminate. But enough where
are we thinking decades?
Yeah, she would be a grown adult. Like this has been like at least decades. Cool. But it's always, he hasn't seen her, and he's always a kid. And like I imagine like his token is something from their childhood, right? Some like stub from a thing they saw that he has to remember her. And he's just kind of doing this. He could do it so well. He could do it on autopilot. So he's just kind of, he's off in his happy place listening to his music, just doing this.
Incredible. Finally, Flugartha, where do we see you aboard the Tin Man? What's your resting face? What's your basic? What's your idle animation?
What's your state?
Right. My default posture is to brood in a corner of the bridge, meditating on my arcane abilities and preparing myself for the next opportunity that offers some kind of personal advancement.
Love it. So, I guess this probably falls to hard, or maybe you've had some sort of conversation previously, but what do you think your way into this place is going to be? Do you have a plan for getting through the Unbreakable Hole, or sneaking past the Venerant Sea, or some other option I have not considered, because that's how role-playing games work?
Yeah, I was going to ask a question here. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Brad.
Well, I wonder if I could reach out with my mind and try to find some kind of release mechanism in the, I think you said there was another docking port?
There's a giant aperture that's like, it would open up to be, the size of a city, effectively, but so you could totally try to do that. Hard. What was your question?
My question was, is there any history of these various orphan ships ever being able to link with one another, psychically, energetically, whatever? Like, is there a way that the ships can communicate with one another?
Almost certainly. That's the sort of detail I'm happy to let. It's funny, because as talking to a microphone about this game, I realize I have to both answer the generic question and the particular campaign question. If I don't say that I'm answering the broader, this is true about all Realis is everywhere question, assume I'm just talking about this campaign. I just want to make sure people at home know that what I say here isn't the only canon or something. Yes, in this version of Realis, in this time, in this place, it's rare, but it happens, and it tends to happen in moments of what can only be understood as high emotional pressure between two vessels. It's not a thing that like every vessel can be like, you have communications equipment aboard that can talk back and forth.
Right. Regular like radio signals and things like that.
Exactly. But the vessels themselves need to either hate each other or love each other or depend on each other in some way for it to spark, and the two vessels to directly psychically, communicate. And that communication is not like talking. It's like you said, it's this kind of like raw emotional impulse, bouncing. So that's true for this world. Also, really quick before we continue, I want to shout out two artists. Sam Beck did some of the art you've been showing on screen, Vinny, the big Realis kind of set of moons and the abyss below, and then also did the interior art. I think you showed the seventh moon, the cursed moon of Yazarin, with a big ship flying overhead. Sam Beck did all of those as postcards originally for Friends of the Table's Patreon, friendsoftheTable.cash, years ago, and we finally got to, now that the game is out, share them in the main book. And then the cover art of the book, which is also the cover art of the main Realis podcast now, is done by Odesk, who is a fantastic artist. Really gorgeous cover art, really fun, really dark and cool. So check both of them out before I forget.
All right.
So yes, Brad, if you're interested in it, you can try to reach around. I think it might be hard to immediately find the switch to pull with a single conflict, if that makes sense. But you definitely can at least try to do some sort of ritual or something that lets you see inside and try to locate, figure out what's going on in there. To me, and it sounds like we're at our first. Yeah, exactly. Some intel gathering. It sounds like we're at what I would say is our first conflict, or at least our first uncertainty. I don't know if you can do that. I think on paper it makes sense that you could maybe do it, but a normal person couldn't just use their mind or use magic to look inside. Neither of your other companions could probably do that, but maybe you can. So I get to say this is uncertain. Which means are you using to clarify that uncertainty to succeed?
By +1 sentence, I always know which old words serve my aims.
Love it. So what's that look like? Because I don't think this is being opposed. No one's going to try to, at this point, get involved against you. What are the old words that serve your aims?
I suppose that looks like sinking into a deep trance and maybe murmuring some slightly unintelligible words. And trying to...
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And then just trying to kind of extend my consciousness around this giant vessel and see what it feels like.
Yeah, I think a couple of things happen at once. The first is that you get a pretty clear image of this first opening area beyond the big docking aperture. It is a again a vast docking area, but it doesn't look like a docking area for most. You've been in space stations before. You've been in orphan vessels that dock, and most of them are like pretty clean, simple things. This feels so much more like coming up to a seaport. There are like hundreds of individual little docking, like not bays, but like almost like there's a bridge out into the water, except the water is the sky, is empty space. And then there's almost like a little coastal village that's completely abandoned as far as you can tell. Maybe there's the occasional skittering of a creature or a body in the shadows, but it's almost like a little tiered like seaside village of it looks like claywork buildings, and you're kind of scanning around. You've succeeded, and I've actually moved too quickly here for one thing, but it seemed like your intent was try to find a way to open this thing, right? I think from the outside looking in, from the inside now looking around, the mechanism for opening it is it takes you a second to locate it. It isn't a physical switch or something. It's an enchanted bell. There's a big bell that hangs above this city that you have to ring with a particular implement in order to open the aperture. And that's not something you can do with your magic. Immediately you can't just like hit the bell with like a hit of force, or you try it even. Everyone hears the bell go off even through the empty air of space, the emptiness of space. Everyone hears the like dong of this bell, but nothing happens. And so somewhere in there must be the hammer that will ring the bell to open the aperture and let you actually dock the ship, which would let you fill the ship with goodies and get out of here, right? So that's what you say.
Okay.
Do you share that with everybody?
Yeah, I was about to ask. Do I need to specify that I communicate this to people? I guess
normally I might not say so, but your particular character, Flugertha, I want to make sure you are in control of what you're sharing with the class, just in case you do want to hold on some stuff.
I am completely open about all of this information to the crew.
Okay.
Awesome. I think this is really important because that sentence you use that's very powerful. I always know which words serve my aims. You can only use it if it's your aims, right? So I think something very fun about the way you've written this character, you've realized that sentence it's a very selfish sentence. And if you ever feel like being selfless, you will not be able to use it, right?
Even if my aims are identical to the larger aims?
I think as long as your aims are identical, but you can never do something selfless. You can never do something altruistic with that sentence.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting. Okay.
So
that makes good sense.
I'm not sure if I realized that.
I mean, yeah, well this is how you get yourself a little bit in Realis is you realize in a way that feels kind of open-ended, but this is the tricky thing about language. There's always a slight restriction in there when you start adding clauses, and so in these types of clauses anyway. So
good to know.
All right. So know this. Everyone now has an image of this place. I don't know if that's what you thought it would be or not. There isn't a lot of information about what goes on inside of these grand vessels, but certainly you've never heard of one that has a little seaside village right next to the docking area.
So we just have to ring the bell. Is it?
You got to get in there
potentially with the right instrument.
With the right instrument, not just ring it, but with the right hammer.
Yeah.
But is there anything protecting the bell? Like
it's all inside. Everything that Brad just reported was past the aperture. So you have to get on board somehow and then ring the bell. It's on the top of a tower, it's the top of like a bell tower. So stairs would be in between you and the tower and the bell. That's kind of the big one.
But no, you didn't see.
Exactly. Well, you would hope to, right? I guess you could just try to get in a different way, 100%. But if you want to open this big aperture that gives you access to the kind of docking village of this big ship, that is how you would do it.
Yeah, my feeling is that is a way out rather than a way in.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that feels right to me. I think Hard is going to kind of take this information, and he's going to look particularly at Celix and say, "All right, bud, what's your standing with the Venerant Sea these days? Because I can say that mine is not optimal."
Celix would know that the Venerant Sea also has systems that need repair and maintenance. And Celix would like to play I always find a simple but effective solution, which is Celix would say they constantly have a system there. I know for a fact that they filter enough water that their filtration systems are, because they have to make all kinds of concoctions to sell to be holy waters and these things, that their filtration systems are always on the fritz. And I happen to have a fresh set of filters in the back here that we could just say that we are bringing in for a delivery.
I love it. Yeah. So do you radio them up and make that announcement or make that claim?
Yeah, Hard's going to get on the horn here through the traditional radio means, and he's going to try and make contact with the station.
I think it's an immediate pickup. Though you can hear the sound of people in the background and the person on the other side of the comm, there's an almost relieved voice. Maybe they're relieved to be talking to you instead of the visitors. I'm not sure. They go, this is the progress. Who's calling us?
This is Captain Hard Markinson of the USC, whatever the hell, Tin Man. We got a delivery of water filtration equipment. We are supposed to be making here. We are requesting permission to dock.
Well, we don't have any visitors on the schedule besides the ones we already have. Do you have any verification or evidence of an order being placed? Or this is someone trying to use a sentence against you. We'll add it back to the sheet for you. The Venerant Sea, as a faction, has a set of sentences, and one of them is Venerant Sea parishioners are always suspicious informants. And so I will add that here to the thing. It's only a +0 sentence, which means you can beat it in Realis. Kind of ties go to the defender, so to speak. So if you have a +0 sentence that you think can counter that, their intent is to, because the way that conflict works in Realis is someone decides, I'm going to take some action to shake up the status quo. I declare a dramatic intent. In this case, their dramatic intent is to say, no, sorry, you don't get to come here right now. And then for you to be convinced by that. Then they declare their means. If they're a player character, they should declare if they're using a token or if they're using a bond or a dream, also, whatever. Not also, but, instead of. And then the counteractor decides what to do with that information. In this case, I guess you don't technically know it's a +0 sentence, but you've never seen it before. It reads like a +0 sentence. Sometimes that gets tricky. Sometimes something you'll hear, like, well, that sounds like a +1, but it's really a +2 because there was a change in verb or something. But in this case, you're pretty sure it's a +0 sentence.
So there's a couple of ways I could potentially attack this. I think I'm going to go with the more simple option here, which is another +0 sentence that I have, which is I always announce my presence with unmistakable flair. So I would like to say that when I am making this call, I am putting the charm onto this probably not particularly easily charmed space Catholic, and I am simply going to say something along the lines of, I understand this was a last-minute order. We were to understand that these water filters were needed very urgently. We want to make sure that no one on your station becomes ill or otherwise, in an infirm situation. We would very much like to simply deliver these things, take a brief rest, and then find our way out of here.
Okay, of course. Please move to the retroquired docking area, please. And I'm going to mark the sentence, venerancy parishioners are always suspicious informants. You've succeeded at countering the sentence, which means one, I cross it out for the rest of the scene, which in this case, I'm going to say while you're aboard this space station, they don't get to be suspicious informants. But I'm also marking it. If it gets marked 3 times, it can realize. It's primed, it can realize and level up. And at that point, it can get unmarked even inside of a scene where it has been countered. That probably won't come up, but it does often come up when you have kind of repeat encounters with a group or a character. And you know, there's a sort of a set of free floating lanterns in space, or they're almost like in my mind, you know, kind of like bowls with a candle in them, like that style of like a basin with the flame coming out, almost like an eternal flame, just floating in space. They go like, they all light up, giving you the docking, guidance.
Does it make that that noise that all the movies make when they go into a warehouse and the lights go like yeah,
100%.
Great.
Yes. And you're able to pull right in. And no one comes out to greet you here. I think this is a traditional setup where you pull alongside the station, a docking arm comes out and like latches onto the side of your ship. A pretty traditional setup for the way that this goes. Yeah, you're docked. No one seems to come out to no one's knocking on the side of the door. The interior, airlocks are just ready to go whenever you're ready to leave the ship.
Okay.
What do you do?
I think as we walk out, I assume we're going to head outside the ship. As we walk out, I do my one traditional thing, which is to give the ship like a little, touch on my way out, just as like a stay here, bud, like you would like a loyal dog kind of thing.
Yeah. The feeling it gives you back is sort of like when a small dog, imagine you're leashing a small dog to like a fence or something. You're leaving it briefly behind somewhere or like a tree, but there's a big dog nearby. So there's a little bit of nervousness. But you could feel it leaving the ship as you, like, the nervousness kind of releases as you do your little hand tap.
Yeah. Similar to the way it alleviated my anxiety earlier, I am doing the same for it.
That's right. Love it. As you, Yep.
I think I run this question by the crew. Are we concerned with any pretense whatsoever of delivering the cargo that we claim to have? And I'm guessing you're not.
I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of walking out with like some boxes or something that just sort of looks like we are doing the thing we said we were going to do, and then maybe just sort of carrying those to wherever it is we think we should go.
Yeah, Celix says, I've got a couple of filters in here. I can go hand them off to the first folks we find.
Yeah, we just need to pass the sniff test.
I know these religious folks.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think this is uncertain. Do you have does anyone have a sentence that can justify that you have some boxes around that you could toss together some fakes? I'm sure someone has something. I'm just curious what it is.
I mean, can I use I always find a simple but effective solution again? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So easy, boom.
Yeah. This is one
of the reasons. Go ahead, Vinny.
Well, yeah, this is just like, they'll work to filter water, but maybe won't get the microplastics out.
Yeah, perfect. The reason I asked that is one of the things that happens at the end of the session. Again, we probably won't do end of session rules today, but you get to mark some bonus sentences. So again, if you worked towards a dream, you can mark a sentence of your choice. Another one that comes up a lot is choose one means that shaped how you play your character, but what you did not get to mark during play and mark it. And so a sentence like that is just like, I'm always using, I always find a simple but effective solution. It doesn't fail that often because I'm using it in kind of low tension scenarios often, so I don't get to mark it. You still get to mark it at the end of the session because it's been a key part of how you play your character. Sometimes it's not even one where you use it. It can be a sentence that's just like in your mind the whole time and is driving how you're making choices, So in this case, I imagine that's one that will come up inside of Celix's head a lot. You're able to wheel off or like hover cart off maybe some big crates with some makeshift water filters or something that at least will pass for them for a short amount of time into the sort of receiving bay that is has this sort of beautiful Renaissance architecture. There's like stained glass facing out into space. You can see the light of the corpse sun, that like dark red light coming through it. It's changed the color of what would have traditionally been very beautiful colors. It's made all the stained glass look kind of sickly and decrepit in some way. And there are a pile of boxes, in the corner that's clearly where they receive stuff. And it seems like it's piling up a little bit. Like maybe there was another delivery today of stuff that did not get properly inventoried and taken aboard. And in fact, you don't see anyone else here in the docking bay. It's as if everybody is normally you would imagine that there's at least like a nun here to be like, yes, go put the goods over there or whatever, but that's not happening here. You have free run of the place. There are a couple of doors out that are clearly marked. One of them is leading towards the guest quarters. One of them is leading, towards the central hub, and one of them is leading towards the restrooms.
So as we're setting this up, and the Celix is like doing okay. I think he'd go over to Hard and Flugartha and be like, so what's the play here? What are we after on this one?
What are we after on this one? We're trying to get onto the big ship, right? That's the ultimate goal here. So I think Hard would just sort of be like,
to get there and get all the copper pipes out, so to speak, right? Like, whatever. But they're ancient, powerful copper pipes. They don't make copper pipes like this anymore. This is like finding, a ship from a different era where all the ships were built better. A real they don't make them like this anymore moment. And also maybe there's ancient power on that ship. Maybe there's knowledge. Maybe there's something that could help you find where your daughter went, for instance. Celix.
I would say Celix also, like in this role, maybe he feels like this stuff is better served to fix up, to not prop up the sea, and is better used. These materials are much better used to help the people back who need it, who's like, this stuff is failing and you can't get these materials anymore. Like the systems are falling apart back home and other places, and this place just wastes them. They use it for tearing the copper out to make ornamental things.
That's exactly, yeah. They don't even get the water crystals, so they don't need water filters anymore. If they just got the water crystal, they wouldn't need them,
Yeah. They're just so wasteful.
Yeah. I think another important point about this place is it is gilded. The place that you are now, the what do they call it? The Retrochoir. The Retrochoir is the space station, and it is gilded and again stained glass and gem encrusted and all of the stuff that the church proselytizes you should remove from your own life. It's okay here because it's all about the immaterial one. These are we're taking them away from the mundane world and locking them up here in this beautiful church that only the clergy get to live in. Subtle, I am not on this.
How that works.
It's fair.
Yeah.
I am inclined to briefly check out the guest quarters if it's not too long of a journey, and maybe see who our competition might be.
Yeah, totally. I think you are able to kind of duck down that hallway, and before there's doors on the left and the right of a hallway with kind of tiled floor, kind of a maroon red tile floor, kind of matte. One of the doors is open, and you can hear a pair of voices speaking. There are a pair of voices that at least somebody in this party knows. They are the voices of Saria Blood and Carrick Phlegm. They are two of the, soldiers or minions of Crichton Bile, who is an Inquisitor. They're all on your band sheet. They're the people who you have a couple of the sentences for already. They are, I don't want to say that they're your nemesis or anything like that, but you've come across them a couple of times. You've kind of crossed the line into Venerant Sea space where you've been doing some missions, and so you recognize the voices of Saria and Carrick here. I almost said Flugan. That's a different guy. Flugan is completely different. This is Flugartha.
Yeah.
Flugartha, you recognize them, and Saria is complaining. I think she's like, I'm sick of being on this forsaken station. There's nothing for anything like someone like me to do here. And Carrick is like, calm down. Take a break. We just have to guard a few pilgrims for a week or two, and then we'll be on our way. Think of it as a vacation. And so you know that they are here, and are here in some sort of official guarding capacity, which is not normally what they do. So you're not sure why that's the case necessarily. But it sounds also like there are some pilgrims here, a group of pilgrims here, which maybe answers why seems like the station is a little understaffed. Maybe they're dealing with too many people. So you do overhear that. How do you make sure you don't get caught by them as you're sneaking around back here? I think one of them is probably going to. Let's see if I can actually try to use a sentence on you, or if I'm the one who's over. Oh, you know what I think I can actually do is.
Do you want me to roll for stealth?
Yeah, roll for stealth for me here. No. There is maybe the two of them don't have it. Maybe only Creighton does. I have to get my notes. 1 second. I have too many things open. Here they are.
All good.
I think actually, I think that you have the drop on them. Neither of them have anything special that would let them ferret you out by themselves. So maybe an important thing learned here about the two of them. You can kind of move as you will. What do you do, Flagartha?
Am I allowed to ask, do we fear these minions based on our past experiences? Or
what you've seen, you can see the sentences that they've used on you or before, that you've seen them use before. They are Saria Blood has, I always wield an unpredictable weapon, my chain spear. So you know that she is someone who is a bit of a hand-to-hand combatant who focuses on doing the violence of the Venerancy. So I think in a one-on-one fight, you might fear her. Whether you fear her in a more general sense, you're not sure. And I guess actually maybe I should have said this as you came to dock, you would have recognized another ship that's here, which is the Grace of the Dry Well, which is Carrick Flem's ship. I mean, actually, it's Inquisitor Biles' ship. Carrick Flem is just the helmsman of it, obviously.
It's really your dad's ship.
It's really exactly. That's actually fun. What if it is Biles' kids? What if Saria Blood and Carrick Flem are Creighton Biles' kids? Don't worry about the last names. It's all just thematic, So it's like it's like his son and daughter, and they're kind of having a sibling, bickering in the guest quarters as you approach. What do you do? Having learned this.
Are we able to confer quietly without being heard?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say
maybe we walk back a little bit from where they were.
Yes, within the realm of regular person, possibility. Yes.
Yeah.
My inclination is to quietly back away and leave them be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But with the foreknowledge now that they are on the ship, and we should try our best to not get right into their field of view.
Right.
Yeah.
Love
it. All right.
So with that information, I assume our next goal is to try and figure out where the port to the giant ship is.
That seems like a good objective.
Yeah, I think you said there was another pathway to kind of the main hub.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, is that where you're headed? You're headed down that kind of main hub
I think
area?
so, yeah.
All right. As you take that other hallway, which is a broader hallway, it's not just like the little dorms basically, but it is like it's the type of thing that you could wheel a bunch of big crates down. You start to hear the sound of voices. The center of this place is kind of a domed enclosure that then leads off in different directions to various chapels and the priests' quarters and stuff like that, and that's all ahead. In the dome itself is kind of a congregational spot. There's a fountain in the middle. The whole dome is kind of glassed in, so you get the red of the corpse sun lighting this whole place. All of the angles are the shadowed angles are stretched in strange ways because of the way the light of the corpse sun is hitting. And the murmuring sound, it's revealed, is coming from what I can only call a gaggle of pilgrims. There's a couple dozen pilgrims here who are talking amongst themselves. Most of them are wearing, sackcloth and other simple clothes, but there's a handful of them that are in fact wearing kind of gaudy, a gaudy layer of clothes. And I say a layer because you actually see one person remove their outer, like this fancy outer coat, and toss it into the fountain, where it starts to dissolve, revealing that the fountain is releasing some sort of acid. And they are like going through a sort of baptismal removal of wealth in this moment. They're burning away the layers of these are maybe not the real wealth, the diamonds and gems, those get taken to a vault, but your fancy outer layer, coat or whatever does get just deposited one by one. They're like lining up and going in, but it's not so organized. There's a hush, like people are just talking to one another as this is happening.
Is there like those like pool filters where like all the coins and stuff sink to the bottom?
It's so cute. Yeah, slurped away.
Yeah, just like
yeah, exactly. So you're able to at least start to move through here. I would say you would maybe be under risk, except that you already crossed off the sentence. Venerant Sea parishioners are always suspicious informants, so that they're not going to use that against you as long as you're in kind of the vague shape of what we call a scene. You could cut seeds slimmer. You could say that walking down the hallway to overhear the other guys was a scene, but I'm kind of playing looser than that today and making sure that we have breadth in how long some of these sentences get crossed out. So they don't seem, they're so involved in their own stuff that as you walk down this hallway, none of them even turn to look at you. They assume that you're part of the group or are maintenance folks or something else.
So I have a bigger question. So the moon sentences.
Yes.
So are we on Thrummer now?
You're close enough to Thrummer that you could add sentences to the moon, or use sentences to that effect. Yeah.
And to do that, I would have to use my token.
You spend a token to either use one of these established sentences or to add one new one. Yeah, and use it immediately.
Okay.
Tokens can do a few things. I maybe should have gone over those a little more clearly. One, they can add and use a moon sentence. Two, you can use an existent moon sentence. Three, they can boost the rank of a means you're using, including a bond that another character has with you, or the ban sentence by one. So if you're up against a +1 sentence and you're defending, you're counteracting, and you only have a +0 sentence, you can spend your token to boost your sentence by one. Here is some of the tactical play, right? It's like, do I think I can beat this sentence, or do I need to spend my token?
And then there's sorry, go ahead, Brad.
Do the larger sentences also realize verbally as well? Like they don't just +1. Do you also kind of add to them, or
the larger, like the moon sentences and the fact
ban sentence? Yeah.
I believe ban sentence. I'd have to double check ban sentence. I know it's my game. I made
There's a lot here, to be fair.
There is. I made a decision pretty late on to allow bonds to realize in a traditional way. They originally didn't realize with added clauses. They instead got rewritten over and over again. And I think instead I decided you can totally just realize them like regular. I don't quite remember if ban sentences do or if they just I'm trying to find out. Let me find out for you real quick. I guess it isn't super matter in terms of right now. Yeah, it's not pressing, but yeah. I think that they do that.
Okay. And Kenny, was there something you wanted to do?
Well, so then you can also, I forget what it's called, but you can also cause your character to do something unfortunate to recharge a token.
That's correct. To be clear, you have your tokens already.
Right.
What did you say, Brad?
Is the fourth sentence right that you used to do that? Or
you can do any of them. The fourth sentence tends to be written such that it's a good candidate for it. But you can use any sentence you want to do it. There's kind of two versions of that. There is illuminating failure, which is not the way that you recharge a token, but it's a sentence failing on purpose just so you can mark a sentence. So if you're at like marked, if you have one that's like 2 of 3 and you really want that third mark so you can level it up, you could just decide once per session, I'm gonna swing and miss on this one. I want this one to fail. The other thing you could do is do a tragic success, which is when one of your sentences deliberately leads you into trouble. You can't do that if you're like in the middle of a conflict already, but like in a moment like this where it's totally neutral, you could say, I'm going to invoke a tragic success. I'm going to get us deeper into trouble and mark my token back. But right now you have your token, to be clear.
Yeah. So. Okay. And just to be clear, the thrummer is where we're headed. Yeah. We're trying to get inside the thrummer.
Trying to get inside.
And it's got some kind of melodic thing that happens, the thrumming.
I mean, like I guess I should be emphasizing this. Every 18 seconds you hear
okay.
It's like Tibetan throat singing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And it goes for like a cycle and then it stops and then it picks back up.
Okay.
Can I burn my token to make a sentence?
Yes, you always. Yes.
All right, I want to try because I just want to try this.
Go for it.
Okay. I'm trying to think of a sentence, but I would like to add that the pilgrims venerate the ship and want the thrum calls to them, and they get a few get tours, like get close to touch the ship and worship on it.
The thrummers chosen. How about this? The thrummers chosen pilgrims are always allowed access to the vessel or something like that.
Yes.
Simple.
Yes.
Right. I love this. This is fantastic. In fact, I think maybe so spend your token, mark that you've spent it.
Okay.
You've used this. I'm not challenging it. This is uncontested. You overhear maybe as this ritual of cleansing is happening. Someone in the crowd, maybe the lead clergyman of this pilgrimage, who doesn't seem to be from here, but is like led this procession here, says, yes, cleanse yourself of all mundane things. We are here in the presence of the holy voice. Listen to it sing. And then halam happens. Who among you will walk with me aboard the vessel? And is kind of putting out a call to see, trying to figure out who's chosen her, who's choosing themselves to go along with him on this journey.
I think Hard would raise his hand somewhat sheepishly, and then he would kind of elbow Flugartha and Celix, be like, "Now just raise your hands, raise your hands."
I have a question. I know what Flugartha is wearing, but Hard and Celix, what are you wearing right now? Do you have anything that this church might think of as being, too gaudy?
No. Like Hard Markinson, like I said, Space Farm Boy does not dress in particularly gaudy, like mostly very workman-like clothes. I would say that at most he put on something like, let's just call it the closest equivalent to a hoodie that you would have in this universe, and has the hood up so that he is a little bit more incognito.
Like overall, like basically like a what are they called? Like not overalls, but the coveralls, like coveralls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But they don't quite cover all.
they're like a little too tight. He's got a little too tight, so it's unzipped a little bit. Maybe.
Is there a butt flap? Is the butt flap partially open?
No, these are not long johns. These are like mechanics coveralls.
All right.
But but let's just say maybe there's a flap not quite open, but it's for a tube that is like that you would use in some kind of you have to put through when you put an outer spacesuit on. That would have to feed up, and that's kind of ripped and broken.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, my 3 brethren who come to me dressed austerely already. Still you must give to the fountain. What will you give to the fountain to show you are chosen?
Ooh.
Oh
okay.
man.
All right. Think for a second here.
Can I try to recharge my token?
You can always try.
I always struggle against my roots, which is my background. Of like my blue collar background.
Yeah.
And I say, haven't these people given enough? Can't we just see the ship?
Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, go ahead and recharge your token. None have ever given enough. There is never enough to give. The immaterial one is the only who was given enough. He gave his very body so that we may have a life. Will you give your body? If not, there is always more to give.
All right.
I won't allow you to come. You two, nodding at Flugartha and Hard, come give to the fountain. But until this one repents, he may not join you. Looking at you, Celix.
Yeah, Celix kind of stares him down and says, there's nothing left to give.
You get a lot of odd looks from the other pilgrims.
He looks around when he says that. To everyone.
Yeah, okay.
I'm trying not to rely too much on magic here, although I guess that's kind of my whole thing.
You're a witch, yeah.
Can I reach into the voluminous pocket of my robes and speak some words quietly and conjure a handful of coins?
Oh, absolutely, you can do that. Absolutely,
Okay.
You can do that.
All right. I always know which old words serve my aims, so I guess I say those words.
Yeah. Are you praying to a particular patron deity or a demon or
Oh boy.
what is it that what type of thing do you draw this power from?
Do you worship the void? Do you worship a specific god?
Yeah, those are great questions.
Whoever the god of hedonism is, probably would be a good
I
match.
love it. Yeah, yeah. I don't have a list of this. So yes, guilt, Gilt, the god of hedonism, is your god, is your patron deity. God is a lowercase g. Who knows what it really is? But it is the words of guilt that you are able to whisper to produce yourself some coins. And again, these parishioners will not see through you. I've already kind of established that they don't have that sentence available. And you go in and you put your coins in. And then the attention turns to you, Hard.
I will look to the parishioner, minister, whatever you want to call him, and I will say, I'm a little light on material goods. Is giving a memory within the qualifications of what you need?
Yes. Oh, so burdensome memories are. So heavy.
Indeed.
Give yourself.
So what I'm going to do is sort of reach into my space wallet and pull out a photograph of a let's just say a woman that neither of you have ever seen before. And I'm going to take that photograph and I'm going to throw it into the fountain.
And it eats it. And it melts away. And along with a small handful of other folks who have rent themselves down to bare bone rags, the two of you are ushered into another small group. Celix, what's your play here now that you've been disallowed from going across the main gangway into the grand vessel?
I will just say real quick, as Hard walks away from the fountain, he goes over to Celix and is like, repent, motherfucker.
So it's who's the person leading him in?
There's a guy you've never seen before. It's just like a low ranking, I guess, a high ranking enough to have led a mission here or led a pilgrimage here. But maybe you could think of this person as like the priest of a particularly they tithed the highest this quarter, and so they got access to go on a little pilgrimage to see some relics and some holy places. I don't have a name on hand for this guy. Let's call him Daniel, like Daniel, but with an E.
Okay.
So can I maybe notice a very particular scar like under his collar?
Sure.
That is from a group of people who were in a war, a class war that were taken, that Celix knows.
Interesting.
And they were all marked and scarred. And Celix knows this because he's been around this particular moon
long
before.
Enough.
And he uses, I always remind those in positions of power of their origins.
That's really fun.
And says,
that's good.
And says, how can you treat those who have suffered already like you were treated on the moon of, I don't need moon.
Wherever. Yeah. I got you. Yeah. Daniel tries to counter this sentence using a sentence called I always endure through hazardous territory. I'm reading that very, very broadly, but it's going to fail. This is not, Daniel does not succeed here. I'm going to add Daniel to our NPC list, and I'm going to add a +0 sentence. I always endure through hazardous territory. I'm going to mark it once. It fails, but because he was trying to counter you, it does not get countered. It does not get scratched out here. You succeeded effectively. But it's just regularly used. Yeah, exactly. I should have clarified your intention here. I'm guessing your intention was to be allowed to come with this group.
Yeah, I don't have to be friends with him. My intention is to basically have him turn a blind eye to me to realize maybe that I am both uncovering this kind of
this history.
It's not a dark history. He's not ashamed of it, but it is a hard memory. And to kind of reach into his humanity a bit, to find like, hey, I know you. Like,
yeah, I know you in a way these other people don't know you.
Yeah, I know you.
I think his eyes go back to you and like they quickly scan you to see if you have any similar markings, which I mean, most of your body is covered in the coveralls, right? But there is a sort of like real recognize real thing here.
Right.
Like you said, you don't have to be friends, but I do think that you instantly have the sense, oh, this is a guy who came to this church after whatever scarred him. He's thrown himself into this in this way that's very zealous, partly because it was a way of dealing with what came before.
Right.
There's clarity in the immaterial one at the very least.
And like, I'm not trying to say that I'm faking it. I'm just saying that like, hey, haven't we all given up enough to be in the grace of our God?
Yeah. And nods and says, words understood. Join us. Walk with me as we meet the Inquisitor. And begins a long walk down a wide hallway towards the, there are signs that say like, towards the Holy Chorus or something like that, or Holy Chorus this way, as you walk towards where the thrumming is coming from. And in the distance, you can see a figure standing by the gangplank. It is Inquisitor Bile. It is someone who you have run afoul of before, who seems to be the escort of this group of pilgrims. He has not spotted you quite yet, but you do know that that's what Inquisitors do. Inquisitors, you'll see here, quote, I always ferret out the rebellious is the number one sentence that Crichton Bile has, and it is primed. It has 3 marks. It could actually be something different at this point. It could be realized at any point to be something stronger than a +0. You also see that Crichton has, I always intimidate those who share my beliefs or loyalties. There might be other sentences too. I mean, there almost certainly are.
You just haven't run into them yet.
You just haven't run into them yet. Exactly. So as you approach, what do? Do you take any sort of action to help yourself be hidden amongst the wolves, so to speak?
Yeah. So question I have, are we the only ones being led to
I'd say there's group of 8 of you total, or maybe more, maybe let's say 10 of the, couple dozen, few dozen, say there were 36 people back in the big kind of rounded room, and here there's probably 10 of them, of which you make up 3.
Okay.
Am I able to invoke my shelter to disguise our identities?
That's very fun. That's a really nice broad use of it. What's that look like visually? Imagine the cameras on you.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say we've already been seen, so changing what we
Yeah,
look like
you're
now,
among people, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of spell that clouds minds or something, but you can tell me.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I'm allowed to know which sentences he has and what level they are, right?
You're allowed to know what they are, the ones that you've run into already, at least, right?
Like anything that's on the sheet, my character has knowledge of, right?
That is correct, 100%. Anything that's already on the sheet, yes.
Okay, because that's
so for instance, that first one could counter that +0 sentence even without being realized, right?
That's exactly it. That's a +0 sentence, so I'm not actually confident in success here.
You do have a token which could boost it to a +1. Now, he also has a sentence that's primed. He could decide to realize it to make it a +1 and beat your token, though. He would have to decide that before he uses the sentence, right? He doesn't get to change it in the middle of, if he says, I always ferret out the rebellious +0 sentence, then you go, aha, I'm going to boost my thing by +1. He doesn't then get to go, but actually, it wasn't a +0 sentence, it's a +1 sentence. Once he uses it, he's locked into using it,
Okay.
You could kind of play a little game here. So, there's a not a real rule, but there's a sort of, one of the first things I wrote for Realis was this little thing at the very top of the game that is like a tonal set of rules or truths. It says, this universe prizes passivity except after wisdom gained, recognizes friendship's strength but rewards solitary achievement, shifts in scope and scale according to the needs of the story or the whims of its tellers, demands honesty in consequences but care at the table, is an inverted twilight mirage, psychedelic space and sword and sorcery, mumbling mystics at the castle observatory, meteors cleaved clean with broadswords, 1,000 moons in fatal orbit with an unreachable world called Realis. And that first bit, prizes passivity except after wisdom gain, means sometimes it's better to just wait and see what happens, because as the counteractor, you are in a prized position. You're in a privileged position, waiting for someone to take an action, and then you being the person who flips them with their own momentum is stronger than taking the swing yourself. This is, of course, one of the things I think will be most house ruled and flipped and hacked in the game is what about a world where actors have the advantage and you swing harder if you swing first? I think that's a really fun way to hack the game. But in this case, I think you've done the right thing, which is you've said, wait a second, if I hide ourselves first and I'm the actor, I've put ourselves maybe in harm's way, at risk as this guy sees us. So maybe just playing it calm and collected is the right play here.
Right, because he only has to equal the value of my sentence to beat it, right?
If he's defending it, if he's countering it, exactly. Whereas you only have to equal it to beat his if he's the one acting on you.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Then maybe I hold my sentence in reserve and see what happens.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Do Hard and Celix know this guy?
I think you've all.
Do we all know him?
This is a guy who's. I think he's the Inquisitor for this sector of Realis, right?
Right.
I think that he is explicitly assigned to ferret out the rebellious and the heretical here in the kind of the scrap sector or whatever this is, where there's all of these old derelict space hulks and stuff.
So as much as we know the Venerate Sea, we know this person because
yes, exactly that. Yeah, and not just by reputation. You've at least encountered him in some way. You can define what that is. If you want this to be a guy that you've run across over and over again, and you have a sort of a truce, but a shaky one, that's fine. But if you want instead, I think in my mind, he's a guy you've slipped past a few times or gotten one over a few times. Hence throwing a few of his sentences.
I mean, the thing I was thinking was that and feel free to tell me you have a different idea. But like the idea I had was that he might know our ship better than he would know us.
Oh, that's
like
really
he would
good.
have seen.
I like that a lot.
He would have seen our ship. He would have seen us escape him at various times, like maybe when we were on some kind of like scrap run or something we shouldn't have been doing. But he wouldn't have necessarily seen our faces.
I think that's a great. I love that.
Getting a little bit of an Elmer Fudd kind of vibe from this guy.
If Elmer Fudd like could basically like order executions. Yes.
Yeah.
Inquisitor Fudd.
Yeah.
Inquisitor Fudd. Yes.
Yes. Hurry up. You hear him say as the group gets closer and closer. And then you hear from behind you the footsteps of Saria and Carrick, who we've now decided are his children, and also his kind of enforcers, joining you and kind of framing the group in the front. Now he's in the front and they're in the back. And yeah, I think he's like, a single line, please. And bit by bit, each of the pilgrims kind of gets into a single line. And here is where he will try to use the sentence, I always ferret out the rebellious. He is not he is not realizing it. He is leaving it at +0. I've also realized another mechanic I'll tell you, but let's let's do this first, and then we'll get to the other mechanic. He's like, name, name, qualification to each person who comes up, and someone will be like, Jeremy Deadstar. I saw a miracle on the hill and donated my business, the wrench factory, to the church. So it's like a bunch of fairly wealthy people here who've made some sort of huge donation in the last year, and who have some claim to, having some sort of holy interaction or some vision or some dream that led them here, is what they're telling him as they approach. And he is using I always ferret out the rebellious to try to make sure that everyone who is coming aboard or with him on this trip is some sort of true believer. Does anyone have a sentence that could counter that? His intention is to identify, wolves in the flock, so to speak.
Yeah. Can I, real quick, as we line up, can I ensure that I get in the front of the three of us?
Yeah. You want to be the first one, totally.
Yeah. Is now the time to invoke the shelter?
He is using a sentence, so you would be countering. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I have an alternate idea that if you aren't sure about the one you want to do, it's up to you. But the one I have, which this is a slightly different interpretation, I think, from what was traditionally intended, but it might work here, is that I always find the way through or around as long as I can orient myself to a single landmark. Now, that is intended as more of a navigational thing, but what if by seeing this person as the landmark, and I see him as like the obstacle to get around, I can potentially intuitively figure out what it is I need to say to convince this person that I am genuine.
Yeah, I'll allow it, but I also think something's interesting here if you do want to go that route, which is you'd be kind of setting him up as a landmark going forward, meaning if you lose sight of him, that's like losing sight of a landmark, Now you might be able to find other landmarks. The bell tower inside might be a landmark too. But he is, though it is a single landmark, I think you'd be declaring him your landmark, if that makes sense. I know you've written single the other way here, and I think in a different circumstance I'd allow it, but I think that there's a sort of focus coming into being if you want to do that. Otherwise, let's do Brad's idea of shelter, which seems like it'll work. Based on what we know now,
I'm completely fine with going with Brad's idea. I just wanted to float that.
I love it. It's a really fun. Both of those are great ideas. Either way.
All right.
Okay, sure. Let's say when I'm 2 or 3 people away from the front of the line, I attempt to touch his mind and erasing any memory of our existence maybe seems a little ambitious.
Maybe, but what do you, I guess my question would be, what are you giving him? What sort of lie are you putting up? What sort of mind trick are you giving him that makes him think that you are part of the group in some way? That you're acceptable, you know?
Am I able to just alter his perception of what we look like and sound like?
I think that's pretty good. Yeah. What's that? What do you alter it to? What do you start looking and sounding like in his mind?
Is there any real commonality between these other pilgrims that we could emulate?
The thing that they didn't get rid of is their nice haircuts. They all have a sort of, there's a sort of haircut, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
or maybe there's a set of sorts of haircuts where you're like, oh wow, like your hair is did. You know what I mean? Like you're not just. You didn't just get up and comb it today. You went to a salon. You went to a special place. Or even maybe there's a particular one for believers. You know, maybe they all have a very particular type of ponytail or a particular. Sorry, one more time.
The Prince Valiant haircut.
Yeah, they have the Prince Valiant haircut. Exactly.
Yes.
Mm.
Do you then project that onto yourselves? This guy sees you all with the little moppish. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, I put some kind of prim and hoity-toity airs on us to give the impression that we are, I don't know, let's say we are moneyed people looking to liberate ourselves of material interests.
Yeah, love it. Okay. What do you tell him when you approach then? He says, name and qualification?
Oh gosh. So I can't give him my real name, can I?
Probably not a great idea, Flugartha.
Yeah.
I don't know how far your name travels, but it's quite a name, a memorable one.
Okay. I give him the name of Eustace Fliprock.
Eustace Fliprock, of course. What of the immaterial one have you seen?
Nothing, for he is immaterial.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Come this way and bring your two attendants, because of you're wearing the long robes, and the two of them are wearing like coveralls and beat to shit sweatshirt. I think he's assumed that the two of you are his attendants, you know?
Yes.
And he would never deny, the whatever you've worked out with the head pilgrim guy, like he's fine with all that. So this way.
Hard immediately clocks this and starts acting like a servant.
Yeah. There again, you hear the from inside, and the group of the seven other pilgrims, the Inquisitor and his two kids begin making your way across the gangplank and into the belly of the beast, towards the Thrummer.
Hell yeah.
Are y'all good to keep going? You want to take a quick break? Do you need anything else? Are we good to roll?
I mean, if we want to do an intermission, now would probably be the time to do it.
That's what I was thinking. If we do want to do an intermission in the next, instead of like being in the middle of something else, but also happy to just keep rolling.
I wouldn't mind just like 5 minutes to run to the bathroom and grab some water, and then we can just come right back.
Okay, then we're going to take a quick intermission here. We'll be back in just a minute or two. I'm going to take it over to this beautiful artwork and attempt to mute all the microphones. I'm going to do that first to make sure it doesn't get everybody muted. Everybody say hello. Yep, great, fantastic. All right, folks, we'll be back in just a minute. Bye. If you're just joining us, we are currently playing Realis, and we are going to return to the Realis crew in just a moment. I see our players have rejoined here. If you want to give me a thumbs up if everybody's ready. Okay, thumbs up. Thumbs up. Oh, okay. I'll wait for Alex here. I'm going to come back in just a second, and I will 100% forget to unmute someone. Absolutely. All right. Here comes Alex. All right. Alex, thumbs up if you're good to go. All right. I'm going to take it back over to everybody. And unmuting now. And we are back. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Austin,
We're back.
For those who have just joined us, you want to give a quick summary of what we're doing and how they can participate if they want?
Yeah, absolutely. We are playing a game of Realis, which is the tabletop RPG that I've been working on for the last few years as a side project that is now available for purchase. If you go to itch.io and do a search for Realis, Realis, you'll find it. It's on my page at thecalcutech.itch.io. It is $15 for a pretty hefty PDF. I think it's like 130 pages or something like that.
Oh, it's very hefty.
It's very hefty. It currently doesn't have bookmarks, but it will by this time next week.
Mm-hmm.
We've been collecting typos and making sure all of those are taken care of. And then once Tyler, who is the publisher of the book through the Tyler has a small games press called Possible Worlds Games, which is fantastic. Tyler's been handling all the layout and all the typo fixes and stuff like that. Once all that's kind of set, which it's just about now, I'm going to go through and add bookmarks, which will make reading it a lot easier, I think, even for me. There's a pinned message in the chat currently with the with the link. Also, if you want to hear more Realis, right now over on friendsofthetable.net, we are playing through a kind of playtest. From a year ago we started recording, maybe longer. Campaign of it. The first, I think, 4 episodes of that campaign will be for free. It'll be on the main feed, and then the rest of it will come out over the next year or so on our Patreon, which is friendsofthetable.cash. So if you want more of it after this, you can go there or buy it and play your own games. I think that's always, that's always the most fun. That's where you'll make it yours. That's where you will turn it into something that you love. So go check that out. What we've been doing so far is the 3 of you are a group of space investigators / salvagers / antiquarians and archaeologists, and I mean more specifically, you're a sort of spaceship captain, a xenagogue, a witch, and a good fisher, which is sort of like a laborer. In your case, Vinny, you've kind of opted for like electrician, but you're kind of also an odd job man, I guess, right?
Yeah,
I always find a simple but effective solution is very broad.
Mm-hmm.
So,
a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, exactly. A Swiss Army knife man. And you're going into the heart of a grand ancient spaceship called the Thrummer, or at least that's what people call it because of the strange thrumming sound it releases. It's actually in designation Derelict 383 Black Demerit. And you're currently walking across a enclosed gangway being led by an Inquisitor who has been mind tricked by the witch to thinking that you're members of the attending pilgrims, and who is also being kind of shepherded by a pair of evil church minions in the part of Saria Blood and Carrick Phlegm.
Do we know they're evil?
And I guess we don't know they're evil. We know that you overheard Saria Blood being like, I don't get to kill anybody right now.
They're whiny. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a group of 7 other pilgrims who are with you on the kind of group that is being led aboard, including Daniel, the leader, who I guess, Vinny, you've identified as someone who lived through some old war and has gone to the church afterwards, and a number of other rich folks who seem to have thrown off enough of their worldly goods to be allowed on this pilgrimage. What was let me think. What's where we come in? We come in with you coming through the gangway and coming to view what Flugartha saw earlier, which was it really does look like a seaside village. And you come into off the gangway and onto a long wooden walkway that is no banisters or anything to the left and right, and just falls for miles and miles until it reaches like the bottom of the hull of this grand vessel. It's like looking down into space effectively, but an enclosed space. Like there's a wall that just goes and goes and goes. And if you walk carefully down this gangway, eventually you get to what looks like almost a false like shoreside. Like there's literally a sort of like almost like a beach that's kind of being supported on beams, and then these kind of walkways up to the beach, or these kind of like docks. And in here right now, you can see that there's hundreds of these little docking bays, and there's one other ship that's docked here. Except it's not really even a ship. It's an orphan vessel, or something the size of an orphan vessel, that has been so picked clean that it literally looks like fish bones. There's nothing on it anymore except the bones themselves, which maybe have some value, but are like really hard to transport, especially by hand, and especially by this single wooden walkway across a mile of nothing as you walk through the empty space before you reach the little village inside.
Okay.
Anyone doing anything dangerous while on this? Go ahead.
No.
Do you mean that the ship is a literal fish skeleton, or it just looks skeletal, but it looks still like biological in origin? It's not organic.
Like it's just like the joists and the framework, and everything else is gone.
It's hard to tell from this distance. Where does organic and mechanical, where's the line between the two of them? You're like a mile away from it, so it's hard to get a close-up view. But it does look like a fish. Like it does have that like look to it. It's like a spine and then like some rib, like a rib cage almost. But yeah, maybe there is some sort of hard. You pilot one of these things, you can be like, oh, I see where the cockpit would be, I see where the engine would be. I get, based on the widths of this stuff, that was a vessel not too unlike mine, and it has been picked clean. So
Hard has two questions here for the larger universe. One is, when I am glancing toward that skeleton of the ship, is there any kind of incandescent light coming off of it at all, or does it seem, in his mental terms, completely dead?
Interesting. It seems dead. It does seem dead. Okay.
The other thing I would ask, you said we had never seen a particular configuration for a ship like this before, right? Like the seaside village and all that kind of stuff.
100%.
Does this seem like something that was added decades, if not centuries, after the thing had already become derelict? Maybe people had put it there, or does it look like it is part and parcel with the design of this area?
It looks part and parcel. It looks like it, now that you're here and you can see with your own eyes. Imagine a town on a hill that's been built as like 2 or 3 tiers up. There's a big bell tower in the middle. There are kind of, it's hard to imagine this because you're inside of a ship, right? But the ship is huge inside. The ship goes up. There's a ceiling, 500, 600 feet above you, which means there's another deck above you. But all around the town, sort of this village, are like rolling metal hills, then go up until they hit walls, including the kind of back wall, the side walls here. Some of those have little doors that apparently are big doors that lead into other parts of this grand vessel, the Thrummer, or they in one case behind the bell tower. Maybe you can't quite see this yet, but maybe I'll take some liberty here. The camera rises as you're walking this wooden plank, and you can see that behind the village is a chasm. It's as if it's like on the side of the Grand Canyon, and then across the chasm is a wall, and on that wall is a huge bridge, like a drawbridge that's blocking some sort of doorway.
Okay.
The drawbridge
So the
is as
bridge
big
is up.
as the bridge is up, exactly, across this kind of internal. We're really in like Destiny taken king ass ship interior. You know what I mean? It's just like
I know these language. Man, yes, absolutely.
Why is there an abyss below me? Why is there a drawbridge in here? Like,
so this is all inside the ship.
You're all inside the ship. The ship is huge. The ship is bigger than the ship is. I mean, it's a moon sentence, right? It has moon sentences. It's as big as some small moons are.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Is there a body of water by this beach, or is it just empty space?
It is empty. It's nothing. Yeah, 100% empty. Okay. It's like you could imagine the orphan vessels coming in to dock as if there were a layer of water, and everything is on that sort of horizontal axis. They're not building in 3 dimensions on this thing. You know what I mean? It's not. There's not a second village underneath the first village. It kind of instead. Underneath the village kind of curves and goes down as if there's like a foundation underneath it. Does that make some sense? Does that you kind of get what I mean? Yeah. It's like a curve,
If I may add on to Flugartha's question sentence, does it look like there was ever water there? Is anything rusted? Does anything look like it has been touched by something other than the void?
The answer to that is absolutely, but it's not that there's water missing. It's that there are, as you approach, you start to pick up scorch marks, damage to the building, to the buildings rather, scorch marks against that underside kind of hole of this deck. And those sort of look like, I mean, we've already said now that Celix, you've been in war, or at least you know people who've been in war. This looks like some sort of the ruins of an ancient battle, or the remnants of some ancient battle. Mm-hmm. The village itself looks like it's been taken care of as best as possible, probably by this church, or taken care of in the sense that the easy to access bits that had fallen off have all been, scavenged up by people. And it doesn't look like there was a fight here recently, but it's like going to the site of an ancient battle, or something like that. There are still some scorch marks and still some, some of the buildings have been broken in half, presumably by some siege weapon or something. But all of the rubble has been cleared away at this point.
So if this was like a natural environment, like we would be finding like cannonballs underneath the grass that had overgrown or that kind of thing.
That is exactly right. That is exactly the vibe.
Okay.
Yeah.
But nobody lives here. We're the only people that are, we can see.
That we can see.
Nobody live. No human. No one lives here.
Okay.
As
this isn't a colonized.
It is not occupado.
Yeah, right.
Oh well.
Nobody's paying taxes here.
Yeah, no one's paying taxes here. There we go.
Okay, got it.
I guess here's the thing. Because you have the moon sentence, the Thrummers scavengers always trade salvage for supplies, that there are people who come here as scavengers, both people like you, but also maybe more long-term scavengers who, the way the corpse of a whale will wash ashore and then become home to a whole ecology for a month or two as, first scavenger animals come and, eat the corpse, and then inside the bones will grow, strange, plant life or whatever. Like that style of thing does happen in vessels and derelicts like this. So there are probably people aboard somewhere here, right?
Okay.
There are also always, like I said before, when Flugartha was kind of scanning this place with his mind, there is some sort of some degree of maybe wildlife here. He got the sense that there were like creatures aboard. In terms of the living things, those seem to be what would be here. Yeah.
Okay.
And as you approach, you can hear the thrumming again. Except this time, as now you're aboard the vessel, you can hear it slightly more clearly. Again, before it was just like, but now you can make out words, and it's around a ruin, rune, run, round, ruin, rune, run, over and over again. Which is weird, because that certainly doesn't sound like sort of any sort of holy catechism or hymnal or hymn that the Venerant C would particularly worship. But nevertheless, the other pilgrims with you are like, oh yes, the words of the immaterial one echoing through space.
Oh wow. Huh.
And you come ashore. You come to safe territory. I'm not going to have the wind blow you off into the abyss. You've made it to all right territory.
Is there wind in here?
And, there is a soft wind in here. Yeah,
what?
There is. Yeah.
Is it a constant?
And it's coming in gusts from whatever's behind that big drawbridge. It's coming not from ashore, but almost like inland, if that makes sense.
Celix is definitely going to point that out, because that's weird for us, like in a spaceship. Like, it's like when you hear water draining and you're like, water shouldn't be draining from, like, there's a drain on the floor. Like, do you feel that? You guys, you guys feel that?
Yes.
Oh, I feel it, brother.
No, the wind.
Yeah, no, I feel that too.
Crichton Bile leads you to a little plaza on the kind of first level of this kind of 3-tiered town. I guess the second level, the first level is like the docks and the fake beach, and the second level is kind of like low, clay houses, and then the third level is like up at the top of the hill where there is the bell tower and other stuff. So on the second level, there's a little plaza, and Crichton Bile says, we will stand here and listen to the voice of the immaterial one. After that, you'll have 1 hour to worship as you will. There's like an expectation of silence, and the chanting comes back through one more time, and you realize the chanting is coming from behind the bridge, the far drawbridge. Again, it's like, imagine you're kind of at the bottom of or the middle of a hill, and above that hill is the Grand Canyon, and then on the other side of the Grand Canyon is a wall, except in the wall is something the size of the Capitol building in width, that is a drawbridge, and then hundreds of feet tall, and then behind that is where that thrum is coming from. That chant is a voice coming from behind that, and that is also where the breeze is coming from. And you maybe realize this now, Celix. It's coming with the same rhythm as the chant is,
like someone's breath almost.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, last question. I will just is a sort of procedural thing about what we're seeing here.
Yes.
Does any of the architecture around here seem in line with the sheer scope and size of that drawbridge? Like, does that thing seem astronomically larger than any of the buildings and living spaces around here?
It is impossibly large.
Yeah.
So you're not in a giant's village, right? But the stonework or the metalwork that's part of it is recognizable from the village, right? So, I would imagine
same materials.
Most of the materials are the same. The construction, and it's not like the church's stuff at all, right? Like we are in I described before as being kind of a Renaissance-y style, I guess, Rococo maybe style church. Here we are in like low Gothic. We are in, there's buttresses and there's vaults and stuff, and harder edges than what was in the church space station. Nothing here is gilded. Nothing here is as shiny and built for. Not that there isn't an aestheticism. Not that there isn't some sort of some element of beauty being built into these things from whoever built them, but it's a completely different set than the sort of grandiose nature of the Retrochoir, which was the station that you were at before.
Got it. Okay. While we are observing the silence, which Hard will do with the best he can while fidgeting around, he is going to keep an eye in the direction of the giant drawbridge, looking for something that resembles a device or a structure where there might be some kind of control for that thing.
You don't even need to give me a sentence here, because this isn't uncertain. It's certain there's nothing that you can see. Not with your eyes, maybe not with any eyes that seem like they'd be connected to being able to open it from here, at least.
Got it.
That seems to be the case, at least.
I will whisper that to my crewmates.
Yeah.
Would you describe this derelict as being of Realis?
Interesting. Well, give me. What are you angling for here?
I'm wondering if I can let the nature of Realis take control of my mind to see if I can divine any meaning from this chant.
Yes, absolutely.
I wonder.
I love that.
I wonder if the derelict is, of an earlier era of this reality.
Yeah.
Such
this is a perfect
use of the
sentence. So your intent is to learn something about this in that way. Yeah, 100%.
Specifically those words. Yeah.
Let me see. Let me see if anything tries to counter you on this.
And there's always a chance, right?
Okay. So everyone is praying in this kind of central plaza. What's this look like while you're doing this? How do you let it take control again? What's the camera show? Is it a facial thing? Is there an aura? Is there something else?
Yeah, glassy, distant look in the eyes.
I love that.
I mean, it's very tempting to say no change at all, but
no. That sounds good to me.
Let's say I'm completely unaware of my surroundings for the duration.
Yeah, so I'm going
if anything bad happens, I might be in trouble.
Yeah, well, I mean, something fun is happening here, which is that you're going to get what you want, but not quite the way you want it.
I love it.
So, you are reaching back. You are opening your mind, as they say over in the Game Apocalypse world, to the psychic maelstrom. I'm going to tell you right now, you should counter that sentence. Something is about to counter that sentence. So go ahead and use the strikeout tool on it and then mark it. Okay. Click one of the boxes.
Okay.
You get flashes in your mind of an earlier time here. There are bodies walking around, people walking around the shore, loading and unloading something from the ships that are arriving. You can hear the bell being tolled, which both opens the outside aperture and lowers the drawbridge. You see that happen at the same time. So those two things seem to be connected. It's like the aperture opens and the drawbridge opens at the same time, which suggests there's maybe some connection between those two operations. And then you notice two things. One is in the vision and one is in reality. The vision reveals that there is something wrong with these people. They don't have faces. There is an oval-shaped hole or absence where their faces should be. Some of them wear like a plate, like a sort of almost like they're covering the hole in their face, like aesthetically. You know what I mean? Like almost wearing like an eye patch and like a cool design on it, but for their whole head. And it's
not just a gap in my perception, but physically.
But physically, they are absent. Okay. There's a round absence in their head, and then the second thing so that they're doing that. The second thing that you notice is in this time, it's now. When you reached back like that, you sort of open something up. I'm adding a new faction to the banned in world list. They are called the Rune or the Round, depending on how you want to talk about them. And they have a sentence, Rune spirits always possessed the oldest thing in a room. That fish skeleton shakes to life and begins to undock from the station and begins to like hover around, and it emits a loud growl. From a distance, you hear your own orphan vessel, Hard, call out, in an emotion like bark, effectively, back from where it is docked, the way a dog would bark to warn its owner that something is coming for it. What do you do?
Oh hell!
But does everybody else notice this?
Oh yeah, everyone else. Yeah, I'm just letting you go first because you're our heroes. Okay. Yes, everyone else is going to turn and see it. The first person who notices it is Flugartha because of how it's because of Flugartha. No one else knows it's because of Flugartha necessarily, but it's just happening.
But we know it's because of Flugartha.
Yes, I think Daniel, the head pilgrim, is like, "'Tis a miracle." Unsure of what this is, which starts to quiet some of the fear. But they should be scared. They should be scared.
Yeah. Okay, so is this thing like barreling down on us now?
It is like preparing for a like a dive bomb. You know, it's like going up for an attack run, effectively.
Okay.
All
right.
And you can see now it shouldn't be held together. Like it literally doesn't have enough of its structure to be held together like this. It's being held together by a sort of spiritual energy.
Is there any sort of visual miasma or anything like that that would indicate like a form or a shape, or is it literally just sort of the glowing skeleton?
It is a seemingly just kind of a glowing skeleton, I think.
Got it.
Right. It seems like it is possessed, is what it seems like.
Okay.
How we visualize that's kind of up to us. But I don't think that there's like a gasp or a miasma around it. I think that it's in the thing at this point. Maybe when settled on it, and then it like went into the bones of the beast, you know?
Okay. I would definitely just very quickly let my crewmates know that Tin Man says danger.
And Hard, you said you did not see you could not scan or clock any mechanism to open that drawbridge?
The vision that Flugartha just had revealed the bell opens both the drawbridge and the aperture.
Oh, right, at the same time, right.
Yeah, but I think we need the correct hammer to ring the bell, right?
That is right.
Whatever the instrument is, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Unless you guys have something, I would like to try.
Not off the top of my head.
I would like to try to convince everyone that we have to get out of here and go in across the drawbridge to lower the drawbridge and go inside, because this is I've seen ships like this before come to life in places. And I have helped groups of people to survive.
Is this true? Have you done this?
I always convince those that don't know any better that I put in an honest day's work.
Is that a +1 sentence?
That's +2.
Oh, it's +2. Interesting. Are you using your token on this? +2 is pretty strong. Maybe you don't need to use your token on this.
I was just going to go +2 it.
Okay. Someone is going to try to counter you. Inquisitor Crichton Bile is realizing his sentence. I always ferret out the rebellious. It is now the +1 sentence. I always ferret out the rebellious who have slipped past me once before.
Oh boy.
But it's only a +1, right? So it is going to fail, but I get to mark it.
So that's 1 mark toward going to +2.
That is right. Exactly.
All right.
And it doesn't get countered because it fails. And so, yes, I think he says, the servant speaks correctly. Begin searching for a key or a horn. He doesn't know how to open the damn bridge.
Know?
Or some sort of instrument.
I think
perhaps
Felix is
a
like,
scroll we could read.
You don't know how to ring the bell?
I know what the immaterial one puts in front of me.
Oh boy.
And little more.
He's like, Celix is just kind of like, how do you not know?
And the group of pilgrims leaps into action and begins to like run through the buildings, the old ruins, to try to find something. They're listening for directions at this point. I think when you raise your voice like that, one of them gives you an odd look before running away. You're not sure if it's because like this is the second time you've spoken out or something else. But,
I always struggle against my roots.
You do always struggle. You do always struggle against your roots. It's true. So yes, this thing is kind of on the hunt. Everyone's, at the very least, what you've managed to do is spread people out so that you don't get that situation when you're playing XCOM and you put 3 people behind the same cover and then a grenade comes in and eats them
Yes,
all.
right.
You've at least
Thank you.
done the right thing of spreading them out, So, what do y'all do?
I think hard is going to, similar to the various pilgrims, start trying to rifle through the nearest buildings he can to try and find this instrument.
Okay. Do you have that's uncertain to me? Do you have anything that would make that uncertainty clear? Do you have a means or a sentence that might help you with that?
Okay. Yes, I do. I'm gonna try and sort of interpret. I always have the right map somewhere, as my action. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to, as someone who has been around a lot of moons and has been to a lot of places, even though I have never been to a place exactly like this, there is usually a sort of basic uniformity to how you lay out a living space, be it a village, a town, what have you. And so in my mind, you would never want to keep that particular object that would ring that bell too far from where that bell is in case there was some kind of emergency. So I would try and map the area around where the bell tower is, and I would look specifically in those areas because that makes the most sense to me.
There's going to be a bellkeeper's house or something like that. That makes perfect sense. And again,
even if I don't know what it looks like, I assume it's there.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
I don't know if this is me conferring with them or asking you, Austin.
Yep.
And can I ask what the consequences of opening this giant aperture, this big docking bay would be? I mean, is that open to the void of space at that point?
It seems like it's open to the void of space. Your instinct, you have seen versions of this before, maybe not a ship this big, or one from this ancient culture, but you've seen them open up and be in what looks like open air, but somehow not, depressurize, which is different than like if you were deeper into the ship and there was a hull breach, that might depressurize and suck everything out into space. Something about this place has been treated, whether technologically or magically, with something that makes it fine to open that outside aperture. Okay. So you should be okay. Now, you don't know what's behind the big drawbridge. That you cannot vouch for. That you just don't know. Hard, I'm going to say, okay, your intention there, again, this is a game about dramatic intentions. Your intention is to find the hammer, right?
Yes. Find the object.
Okay. Yes. That is a +0 sentence, right?
Yeah, it's not an upgraded sentence.
Yeah. Okay. You find your way into the bellkeeper's, the kind of house of the bellkeeper, which is sort of like a lighthouse keeper's house that's very close near the bell tower, maybe even attached to it. And you're looking around for it. You're not spending your token on this, right?
No, I'm not spending my token on this.
Okay. As you look around the place, you can't help but realize that everything in here is covered in a layer of like dirt and dust and grime. And you hear the sound of something chuckling, something laughing. And there is a small little ghoul that comes clattering down the stairs covered in in grime, in dirt and grime. This is the type of creature you've never run into before. But it is a member of the rune. It is a wordling, which is a being that seems to inhabit or embody a particular word. In this case, it is their word is grime. It is a +0 sentence. They are countering your ability to find something. Go ahead and scratch that sentence out and mark it by 1. Like the ghosts or the visions of the past that Flugartha saw, there's no face here. It's an empty hole where the face should be, which means that these little laughs have a strange echoing effect, coming out. It's as if you're hearing laughter through the depths of a cave system or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that gets countered. And I think what happens is you're pretty sure that the instrument you're looking for is here, but there is now this weird ghoul separating you from it.
So that's strike out the right map sentence, right?
That is right, exactly that. Yeah, strike that out if you can.
Yeah, if you can do that for me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. It's marked once. Okay, so I've never seen one of these things before. Is it trying to say anything to me, or is it just cackling like an asshole?
It's just cackling like an asshole. And as it walks, the layers of dirt and grime begin to build up on everything around it. It kind of comes down a stairway, a little wooden stairway to the second floor. And as it does, just layers of dirt and grease begin piling up on the things all throughout this house that you're in. And it's spreading what do the Zergs spread?
Creep.
The creep, across this towards you hard, kind of trying to block you in.
So I'm going to, as soon as I see this thing, I am absolutely going to start making a backing up motion toward the opening to the door of this place, trying to get at least to the doorway. Probably even before it started descending the staircase. I was like, nope, I'm backing away, whatever the fuck that is, I don't want to touch it. I'm not necessarily trying to run away, but I am just trying to get away from the walls of this place so that it does not block me in.
Yeah, I love this. This is very good. It is going to try to take a more aggressive action here against you. With the same sentence that it just debuted, I always embody my word grime. It's going to as it moves towards you, it's kind of running on all fours, hopping on all fours. It's about up to your waist. It has long, lanky arms. It's kind of like Golem or something like that. That style of little ghoul with there's no teeth because it doesn't have a face, but sharp nails that are dragging against the ground, and you can hear them scratch on the first move, and then on the second move you can't because it's all so dirt covered that it becomes it's not hitting the tile anymore. Yeah, exactly. It's trying to jump on you and pin you down and cover you with its gross, grimy, moldy body and essence, and it's basically trying to make you part of the ruin here.
Okay. Can I ask what effect this thing would suffer if it were washed clean?
You'd have to find out what happens, Brad. we gotta find out.
Well, do you have a way to do that?
Wondering, would it be harmful to this thing for it to be cleaned up?
I don't know. Let's find out.
I've got this +2 sentence, and I've been trying to crack the nut on this thing, and I'm not quite sure I have yet.
Okay, what is the +2 sentence?
Because it's I always trade the blood of my enemies for effect unless the blood of a friend is required. Blood and
what are you trying
in a figurative
you wrote
sense?
It, right? I wrote the blood for effect part, right?
Yeah.
In my mind, that's a sentence that's your blood magic sentence. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if we're talking literal blood or.
I think we're talking literal. I think we're talking literal blood here. Again, table by table, someone else might, would that be a good sentence?
Family? Could it be like?
That's what I was going to say. Yes,
or I was thinking maybe I could interpret it a little bit more like life force of some. The grime of this creature is kind of its life essence.
Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit.
What I mean, so to counter the griminess of this thing is to effectively deprive it of life potentially.
Yeah, no, I think that you could do that. I think it's a really great intent to declare. What you need to do is tell me how you're cleaning it, and that might be its own separate challenge first. Do you know what I mean? Where are you getting the water from?
Conjure a big old bucket of soap and water.
Okay, well, that's what are you doing to conjure that soap and water? Break down that challenge into kind of 2 things. Yeah, what's the ritual? Also, if you didn't have your token, I do think maybe this would be responding to an urgent problem with ritualistic means. Alex is being chased by a creature that's trying to choke him out with grime. And meanwhile,
let's say I fell out of the doorway and it's on top of me in the doorway, which is why you can see this happening.
Yeah. Let's break this down because there's kind of 2 things happening. One is you're trying to douse it in water, and the second is that you want that to have a deleterious effect on its very being, since it is a creature of pure grime. So let's find out if you could douse it first.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm imagining some kind of hand motion and furious shouting of incantations.
Yeah. And I always know which old words serve my aims, presumably.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I don't actually.
Or is it something else?
Or is that?
Yeah,
well,
I'm going to do it in two
here. Or
I'm taking two different.
Like a multi.
Got it. It's a multi.
Yeah, it's a multi-stage.
Exactly.
Multi-step. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess that would be that one. Yeah.
I guess I have a question. Is this your aim? Tell me why this is your aim in this moment. Is this a classic? I'm saving Hard so that Hard can continue to watch my back.
Or well, I was starting to say
and get you home.
I believe that he can find the hammer that will get us out of here.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Although he has lost the map ability temporarily, so maybe that's not a firm belief anymore. But that would be the opportunistic way for the character to look at it.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense to me. So yes, there's nothing here in this moment that is preventing you from conjuring some water. It splashes down onto the body of the wordling. Now the second question. I always trade blood for effect. You're trading your enemy's blood, which is seemingly this essential grime that makes it up. And what is your dramatic intent here? What do you want to happen? What's the best way this could go for you? What do you want to happen here?
Yeah, let's say in my mind it's a leap of faith, but I'm hoping that cleaning the thing will neutralize it in some permanent fashion. Let's say I hope it dies.
Compromise to a permanent end.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. I love this. I think that this is going to work. I'm double checking my own sentences. I want to see. I think that we get another rune sentence here. We get another they're going to try to counter you here, but it will not work because this is a +1 or a +2 sentences, right? +2 sentence.
Which one? The blood one.
The second one that you're using, this new one. Always trade the blood. Is a +2.
Yeah, that's +2.
Okay, yeah, I think that's going to succeed. You do learn it does try to counter you. You know, as the water begins to pour on it and wash it away, it leaps off of Hard and comes to try to choke you out, and actually feast on you using the sentence. This is a rune faction sentence, which means it's not just this individual creature, but it's all of the ghouls of the rune. Rune ghouls always feast on the youngest meat, but they fail.
Okay,
which is weird because I'm pretty sure Hard is younger than you, but it does suggest something's true.
I don't think we really said ages.
We didn't, and Hard, you might be the oldest person here, just not in the way that it appears visually. You know, souls
literally
are
an old soul.
And strange.
Yeah,
exactly. And I'm going to go ahead and cross that out and mark it for the rune ghouls. And yes,
as Hard
it melts away like the Wicked Witch of the West. You know, first the layer of grime, and then you see its raw body underneath is it's skin, but it's bone colored skin, and it's brittle. And once it's fully cleaned, it just breaks and shatters and falls to the ground.
It's pretty metal.
When Hard regains his composure, he stands up and sort of like you would in a Looney Tunes cartoon when one of those characters goes under a floor buffer, he is just glistening and shining. You can actually hear the bling coming off of him because a bunch of that water got on him too.
Yes, amazing. Yes, and for you, it did not melt you away. It simply did clean you off a little bit, thankfully.
Just brought a little of the handsome back.
Exactly. Where are you in the middle of all of this, Celix? Are you off in some other building? Are you?
I don't think I would have seen any of this. I think Celix is still flabbergasted that they don't know they don't know how to open this thing up. From even just from a mechanical engineering standpoint is just trying to be how would a bell open this up? There's got to be a wire that connects to the drawbridge, and it's kind of looking for the connection between not necessarily how to ring the bell, but how the bell interacts with the drawbridge in some way.
Sure. Okay. Is that an intent? Are you trying to achieve that in play? Do you want to do a sentence to try to get that? Or is that just an image of you in the moment?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess I'm trying to find the simple but effective solution. Like, a bell seems so overly complicated to open a drawbridge. Like, there has to be a thing stopping this drawbridge from falling down and coming down. We still apply logic to things, right? There are physics inside this ship. How is it not just falling down?
What are you using to achieve that intent? What means are you bringing to bear?
What am I trying to do? I think it's a really big chasm, right?
It is like the Grand Canyon. Yeah, it's a really big one.
I think first he would go and look for where this drawbridge would have to fall and dock to mate with our end of the chasm, right? And then what would lock it into place there, and work backwards to be like, what kind of locking mechanisms is this technology using to keep things in place, right? He's like rubbing the dirt away from where it would land to be like, okay, is this magnetic? Is this some kind of, what are we looking at here? And then tracing wires around,
Yeah. Are you, what means are you using to clarify this uncertainty?
Like which
sentence are you using?
I always find a really simple but effective solution.
All right, you are being countered. As you're looking around that area, you find exactly what you hoped you'd find, which is like, aha, here is like not just where the drawbridge would drop, because it's huge, that's like a mile across. But at the edge of it, where it would fall, there is like an area. There's like a little booth where someone might work to attend to where it lands.
Okay.
And next to that, there is like a giant iron spike that you would like chain it down to make sure it's secure, stuff like that. And you're like investigating all of this, and you're like, are there any controls? Are there any in fact, I'll give you a little bit for free, a little freebie here. Inside of that booth, there is there's no like traditional controls in the way that you would think of like a ship being controlled or a space station in your life as you've seen it. Instead, there is a clay panel that the clay of it is like, it's like liquid clay. It's like soft clay that as the hum is coming through, as that again, every 18 seconds that kind of goes through, it shakes and like, almost like ripples like water does. And next to it is a stylus that you could theoretically write something into. You don't know what this does, but as you're looking at this going, weird clay stylus control board, someone jumps on you and pins you to the ground, and you can feel a knife at your back. You have been countered by the sentence, I always get the drop on targets of the Syndicate. And someone whispers in your ear, what's your last name? Clavitron?
Clavitron.
Mr. Clavitron, your contract is up. And the knife is at the back of your neck. This is the sentence. You don't know who it's from. I always get the drop on targets of the Syndicate. It's a +1 sentence.
Do I recognize I don't know who it's from. I don't recognize the voice.
Oh,
but I do recognize the voice.
You do recognize the voice.
Because I always remind those in positions of power of their origins.
I don't know this person. I don't know that this person is in a position of power. I mean, they're you know what they are. They're in literally a position of power.
It's a different definition, but yeah.
Like they are wielding the power over me, right?
Yep, they are. This is your daughter.
Oh man.
Decades on.
Well, no, Austin.
The person who looked at you when you started raising your voice, and then recognized you again when you raised your voice again when you were like, "How can you not know?" Was your daughter.
Why would you do that?
What's your daughter's name?
What is my daughter's name? My daughter's name is Xena.
Xena with an X or with a Z?
We'll go with the Z.
We'll make it original.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah,
Xena.
Absolutely.
Xena the Blackguard, or the Blackguard, depending on how you want to pronounce that word, has gotten the drop on you with this +1 sentence. I always get the drop on targets of the Syndicate.
Oh man.
Which unfortunately means that you get to mark and cross out. I always find a simple but effective solution because it is countered for the rest of the scene.
Oh man. Okay. Oh no.
And I guess really quick, a couple of things, important things. One, before you respond here, I hate to drag us down for a second. I'm uncrossing out Venerancy parishioners are always suspicious informants because it has been more than a scene since then. And I'll save the other thing for the next time someone makes a sentence, because there's one rule that you haven't used yet that could still be useful for you. What do you do? Okay. Knife at your back. It sounded like what you were doing was remembering someone of their roots.
Yes, that is exactly what I'm doing. But I mean, this is like pretty heavy. Yeah. So like the knife is literally at my back. But I would
it's in the back of your neck. You recognize her voice immediately. Yeah.
I think I'd recognize that voice immediately so much that I'm just gonna whip around and I'm gonna take like a slice to the side of the neck. Like,
ooh,
yeah, just like you know, like
a grazing blow.
Turn, because I'm, you know, this is what I've been waiting for. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think you know, yeah, you lock eyes. You know, she's wearing the same sort of robes as the rest of the pilgrims, but has pulled like a mask up above her you know, her mouth and nose, so you just see her eyes. Those are her eyes. You know her eyes 100%. Hair is in the cut that Flugartha gave you to like sneak in.
No.
Same. You don't actually have that hair, but she does. She is wearing the Prince Valiant cut. For real. And yeah, the knife like cuts against you. Are you using that sentence on her to get some effect in this moment?
Yes, I am. I'm trying to get her to lower the knife, to recognize her what's going on here.
That's a +1 sentence. Is that right?
It is a +1 sentence.
Okay. She is going to try to counter it. And you can sense this attempt with I always disappear into the dark, like where she'll try to like get another stab at you or something, but it fails. It's a +0 sentence. It's going to fail. I get to mark it. She can't, you know, she tries to back away from you in this moment, but actually can't bring herself to. Her eyes locked with yours. Is countered, and she says, "No." She's like, I can't do it now. And like kind of like steps back. And it kind of becomes clear she needed to stab you in the back. She could kill you, but not if she looked at you in your eyes. Not if she faced you while it happened.
Oh man, I'm gonna say like she still have the knife with the blood kind of coming down the knife. Like,
oh yeah, the blood is dripping off the knife. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just I'm just kind of wordless. Almost maybe like ready to just die here. Like just kind of staring at.
Oh no. You have no idea, Vinny.
The knife was poisoned.
She says, "Oh no, Dad. When I have time to prepare, I always coat my blade with a deadly poison."
Damn.
This is not
so even a grazing blow could be deadly.
And it's already happened.
Yeah.
Celix grazed himself with it. That wasn't me. Celix explicitly said, "I turn in a way that cuts me. The blood is dripping."
Does she have an antidote?
We have to get you. She does not have the antidote. We have to get you help. What are you doing here?
What I think Celix is just in shock. Like this is all happening very quickly. And I think he's just like stammering. He's just like, how are you here? Like what? Why?
The Thornbane will run through your system. I didn't stab you deep, so it won't be instant, but you're dying. We have to get you help now. Deflecting your question here.
Just like he's kind of like white knuckle like on her shoulders, just like, how are you here?
I'm here on a mission. I'm here to kill all these people and take this place for everything it's worth. Like as if like duh, you know, like gives you the look like, come on, isn't that why? Like actually, it's like Isn't that why you're here?
It's like, he's like, where have you been?
Where have I been? You left us.
I'm going to say like maybe the poison is starting to get on him a little bit. He's like a little confused. Be like, no, that's not right. No, you left.
That your belief is that they did leave, right? Or that, right?
Oh, totally. She disappeared.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. But he's like, it's like starting, maybe the poison's starting to get on him a little bit. Like, he's like, no, that's not right. You left with Big Xena. That's the mom.
Xena.
Yeah. That's with
one word.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's like her
Celix
syndicate name.
Of course. Yes.
That's like, look, I've got a lot of family members that's like Big Joey and Little Joey. This is like,
Big
we
Xena,
have Big Xena, Little Xena.
Yeah, of course. Big Z.
Big Z.
And I think, as you're having this conversation, there is the loud slam of the giant fish ship crashing into the city behind you. You hear the sound of some of the other parishioners shouting and screaming. Now, the danger having come to pass over there. No one there is like, like I said, you separated them out, but I just want to emphasize no one's there like protecting them from that thing. So there are some losses. I think, she privately is like, I guess I don't have to kill all of them. The fish is going to kill all of them, the rest of them for me, probably. But yeah, I think tries to lift you up, tries to pick you up off the ground, not lift you, but like help you up. I think again, the sentence that was used against you unintentionally that you triggered is, when I have time to prepare, I always coat my blade with a deadly poison. She certainly had time to prepare. She'd seen you earlier. You can try to counter that. It's a +2 sentence. The poison is running through your system. The intent is that you will die by the end of this session if you don't get some sort of cure. So you can choose to try to counter that if you'd like to.
Oof.
I have a suggestion for you if you want it.
Yeah.
This is your dream, isn't it?
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. Yes.
What dreams are made for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think how Celix would counteract this, even with a dream, though. I mean, do I still have to? I still got to figure out how.
You still have to argue. Yeah, you're supposed to be grounded in fiction, but it's a really broad, place here. You can say something about the world. You can say something that's I can make a suggestion here if you want. You're the closest person to the sound of that voice coming through the drawbridge. You're at the edge of that chasm, and the words, the power of the words that are being echoed could interact with your dream in some way that purges the poison from you, but leaves you scarred.
I like that.
Okay, let me think for just a second here. So I still got a full token, right?
You do still have your token, I believe. Yeah.
So
you could also just find a sentence here that works. It is recharged. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Could I do a moon sentence?
You could spend your token on a moon sentence.
Yeah, but it would be 0.
It would be a 0. It will not be that plus 0
2.
Or the +2 that has been used, that you used against yourself unknowingly.
But can I make a +3 sentence that would do it? Or is that +2? Is it?
You only need a +2. So you could take a +1 to a +2 because you're defending technically. So you could theoretically get a +2 sentence, which could be a +1 that you already have.
I want to charge. I want to charge. Use my token to make one of my sentences a +2 for now.
Okay, which sentence is it?
I always remind those in positions of power of their origins. And I want to change it to, I always remind those in positions of power of our shared origins.
Okay.
And I want to look her in the eye and be like, you've always been smarter than this. You'll find a way.
All right. A couple things. One, I still don't necessarily know how that saves your poison situation, but
she's going to find a way. She knows how to do it.
Okay. That's really fun. Okay.
She's not going to let me die.
She's not going to let you die. She's going to figure out how to save you from it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
She's an expert in this shit.
Yeah. She is an expert in this shit. I do want to offer you something else, which I have not offered previously. You want to move quick. There's another way you can temporarily boost a sentence besides a token.
Okay.
You can hone a sentence.
Ooh.
Once per session. You can pick one of your sentences and like realize it temporarily. You can boost it by one by changing it like as if you're realizing it and leveling it up regular style, except it's just for the rest of the session. When you do that, you mark it as if it had been countered. You don't cross it out, but you mark it as if it had been countered. And then you write that new additional condition in parentheses, but you don't have to spend your token to do that. Let's do that. So let's add, what did you want to rewrite it, or what did you want to boost it to say?
I wanted to say, I always remind those in positions of power of our shared origins.
Yeah, so I'm going to just add that and put it in parentheses so that it's clear that that's a honed sentence, which brings it up temporarily to a +2. Importantly, you could now boost that 2 to a 3 in a later conflict at this point.
Okay, if it's in the same session.
If it's in the same session, for the rest of the session, that's a +2. It's already realized, which is really useful because honing is fun because it's a way to try out realization before you commit to it. And importantly, worth saying, I don't think this is true for anybody here yet, but if you had a sentence at 3 marks already, if it was primed for realization, you couldn't then hone it because it's ready to be primed or it's ready to be realized.
Right.
A primed sentence, realization has a gravity all its own. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
I'm grabbing her and I'm saying, I look at her and it's a poison starting to really take effect. Maybe like the veins are starting to like creep up, turn purple and whatever. I'm like, when we were on our own, we got through tougher scrapes than this. You always pulled through. You'll find a solution.
All right. Keep moving. I need you to just keep moving. I'll be, and like, reaches into the robe and starts producing little vials and little, sachets of herbs. Goes to the little toll booth thing that's next to the thing and like kneels down and like finds some sort of, grass that's miraculously growing there and takes it, does like an etching off the side of the building to mix in some of these ancient, the plaster of this place, then cuts her hand and adds her own blood into it and like stirs it up and applies it, does a second cut on the back of your neck to like make an X and then like applies this solution there. And she says, I don't think this will remove it, but it will slow it down to decades instead of minutes. So you're still slowly dying from this poison, but it might not kill you until after you die from something else many, 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 many years later anyway.
He says, I was already slowly dying, having never seen you again.
We should keep moving. Does not want to face all that right now. Was trying to kill you seconds ago. Still,
I don't know why.
To kill you.
Yeah.
This has been one hell of a quick face turn.
Yeah. Well, her job here was to kill everybody and take everything.
Right.
You're everybody. You're a target. It's not. It's just a shame. Anyway, back in the bell tower area. What's going on with Flugartha and Hard? Are you back to looking for this bell hammer, this hammer bell
ringer? Yeah,
the bell ringer?
I think I would have given Flugartha a very hearty thanks, and then squeakily walk back into the house to start immediately trying to paw through everything to find that instrument.
So I think that you've now thankfully gotten through that the past the wordling. But now you still, it's a big place. There's a couple of floors. It's in here somewhere, but it's uncertain where it is. So I'm going to need another sentence, another means of some sort to find it.
Okay.
Either from you or from Flugartha.
Let me just see.
Have we established that the hammer only opens the port to outside?
It goes both. It's both. If you hit the bell, it'll open both at the same time. Yeah.
Both, meaning the drawbridge as well?
The outside aperture and the drawbridge are linked by some sort of magic.
Oh, yeah. I must have glossed over that detail. Okay.
No worries. It came late, so
here's a question I have. Are we going to get sucked into space if that thing gets opened?
You are not. Vinny asked that. You're good. This part of space, or this one part of the ship is fine for that.
Okay. All right. So that thing opening does not require anything extra. Got it.
Should be fun. Yeah.
All right.
In fact, I am using, it's in here somewhere. I'm using a moon sentence against you, which is sort of an inverted moon sentence. There's two ways you could read this moon sentence. One of them is like good for you, and one of them is bad for you. The Thrummer's shadows always hide ancient knowledge. Now, if you use that sentence, you might have found ancient knowledge because the shadows hide ancient knowledge. But I'm using it the other way, which is the Thrummer's shadows always hide. They always cover up ancient knowledge. You might need to refresh. That page. Yeah, I think it'll update. Rennie, I know that's annoying.
No.
So that is being used against you and Flugartha hard in order to try to keep the bell hammer from both of you. Do either of you have a way of countering that sentence? It's only a +0 sentence.
Thinking about it, I'm wondering.
And unfortunately, your map sentence remains crossed out.
Could hide in this case mean like a bear? As in, like, in this shadows case, here always
using
always bear.
In that way, but because it's being used against you, I'm deciding what it means, and it means cover up. And unfortunately, a moon sentence cannot counter itself, so you cannot spend a token to use the same moon sentence against itself. Unfortunately,
okay.
You could spend a token to make a new one, though, if you wanted. Go ahead, hard.
Okay, first question I have. Is there a way I can leverage the fact that Flugartha is here and our bond sentence maybe to push past this?
1,000%.
So my bond sentence with Flugartha is the most precious cargo my vessel's ever carried. I won't ruin this job. I am interpreting this in this particular case as with Flugartha's, let's just say, slightly judgmental gaze upon me. I am very self-conscious of this, and I refuse to let myself fail in front of them.
Yes, I love that. I love that, too, because it goes from being like, oh, my most precious cargo, like, oh, I really want to take care of Flugartha, to like, if I manage to help Flugartha through this, I'm going to get so many more jobs. Like, this is proving that I can work with a whole new class of clientele, that totally works. That's totally it's only a +0, but so is the sentence being used against you. That's going to counter the shadows always hiding ancient knowledge, which is unfortunate in some ways because it means you can't use that sentence anymore. It's countered. Your bravery in this moment. You go down dark hallways, you go into the second or the third, you go into the second floor and then you find the attic, and you go into the attic, and in the attic you find a sort of altar that has an apron, or not an apron, but like a frock, I guess, with like a separate hood, a walking stick, and the bell hammer. And the bell hammer is a piece of ephemera. As you lift it, it sort of resonates with magical power. It is called the Bell Keeper's Hammer. And one second, I'm going to add to the actual ephemera sentence here. It says it's a +3, which is very powerful. Ephemera do not need to match the sort of qualification sentences. They don't need to be realized in order to be powerful. The Master Sword is like, the Master Sword always defeats darkness +3. It's just that good. It doesn't need to have all that other stuff. In this case, this thing has, when struck against something other than the Bell Keeper's hammer always sounds a shattering peal, which is to say, if you hit this on anything that isn't the bell, it will break it. It will release a sound that like breaks stuff, all around it. We know what it does when it hits the bell itself, which is it will open the door and the
Drawbridge.
drawbridge. But it is also just a powerful, if dangerous, and unpredictable weapon that gets 3 uses. Ephemera get used 3 times, and then you don't get to use them as means anymore. You still might have it. That, maybe in this case the hammer breaks after 3 uses or something, or it doesn't have that power literally anymore. But Link never loses the Master Sword. Blade never loses the glaive, but Blade only gets to do the cool glaive toss like twice in a movie before you're like, all right, we're not going to shoot it as if it's a big deal anymore. He's just using the glaive. It's just part of his repertoire. It's not like, a special cool thing he has at this point.
Does ringing the bell count as a use?
It would not, because you would not be. It only counts as a use when you're using it as a means in a sentence, right? So, or a means in a conflict. So you could even you could describe doing something else, doing something where you're using a different means, but having the hammer, and that won't count. It only counts when it's the sort of, when it's the key that fits in the lock that is the problem, if that makes sense.
Got it.
A very powerful key.
+3.
Okay.
+3. And as you, Flugarth, are you with Hard as this happens?
Yeah.
From this attic, there is a window that looks down on the village below. And I think, out there you can see this creature, this skeletal orphan vessel continue to hunt down and devour the pilgrims below. And then as Hard is like leaning down to pick this thing up, you see a form begin to take shape behind him. It is a tall, muscular figure. It seems to be the spirit of the Bellkeeper, or what it's called is it's an erasure. It is sort of the remnant of the Bellkeeper who once stood here. And underneath, in a low voice, he says, "My hammer." And with a ghastly arm begins to reach out for Hard, using the sentence, "I always seek what is missing." His hammer having been disturbed from its resting place in the attic. His intent is to choke Hard Markinson out. What do you do, Flugarth?
What is that? Which sentence is that?
I will read it again. You don't necessarily get to know what the
what
level is.
Okay.
I always
you can divine maybe by the number of qualifiers in it, but
now maybe, but it could have started with I always seek something useful to me, and it could have advanced to I always seek what is missing. But yeah, it's there. It's the final NPC on the right middle on your banned in world list.
Okay.
I see. Okay. I am going to play I always know which old words serve my aims.
Mm-hmm.
And tell
which
him
does.
My friend. Yes, my aged friend, what you are missing is purpose.
Oh, interesting. What is your?
This is what your hammer was made for. This is what your hammer was made for.
This is really good.
Let us take up your hammer and do what needs to be done.
His hand goes from like around the back of Hard's neck to like on the shoulder and gives it a soft squeeze. He says, but be wary. You know not what the doors contain. And then seems to fade from existence.
Right?
Dang
it, I was going to ask him.
It's gone now.
All right.
It's exorcism. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, done and dusted.
We got the hammer now.
Yeah. As you leave the Bellkeeper's house and begin making your way, presumably, to the bell tower, I think we all kind of get back together. You see Celix with what can only be described as like a professional assassin pretending to be a pilgrim, a ninja in pilgrim's clothing.
Not an uncommon sight. Got it.
Knife out as soon as the two of you appear. She like draws her knife, ready to jump on both of you.
Celix is super proud still. Like this is my daughter. This is Xena. Xena, this is Flugartha. This is Hard Markinson. These are my friends.
Celix, you look like shit.
He almost died. He poisoned himself.
He's like, kind of in tears, to be like, I found her. Well, she found me.
Are we going to do something about that? And she like nods at the ship that's crashing down into the ground, destroying the ruins, killing the handful of remaining pilgrims. At this point, I think, you see that like Celia, the zealot, has like tossed this sort of spear, like the spearhead has shot off and like locked into it like a harpoon, and it has like a chain on it, and she's like riding the giant like a Shadow of the Colossus boss,
trying to break it.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to turn it into a mount effectively. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Trying to break it like a horse. But it is still thrashing around and killing people. Is it like still hovering over the ground, or is it like kind of going up and then down, up and then down? It is. I think now it is kind of on a single, because she's on it, it's thrashing around kind of low to the ground. It's no longer doing its dive bombing act that it was doing before. All right.
Can I ask? Are other players allowed to interact with someone else's ephemera?
Only if that player like allows it. Basically, yeah. The way it works is, I'm trying to remember the exact rules around this. I think generally speaking, the answer is yes. It keeps its uses. You can't just like hand it off to recharge its uses. Do you know what I mean? Right, Unless what's happened is super narratively clear that it's like a big new turn for the thing. If Ganondorf stole the Master Sword, Ganondorf's version of the Master Sword would get 3 more uses. When the ring slips from Golem to Bilbo, it gets 3 new uses. You know what I mean? Sure. It is in that sense. But if Bilbo, when Frodo, if Sam took it from Frodo, Sam doesn't just like get to recharge the ring and get a couple of extra bonus actions with it. That's the same party effectively. So yeah.
Can I combo one of my class sentences with that ephemera, potentially?
Tell me what you want to do.
My aim here is to have this fish thing struck with this hammer, which always sounds a shattering peal when it hits something besides the bell.
So what is your... how do you want to combine it with one of your class sentences?
My blood for effect sentence, I feel like, could either play on... could allow Hard Markinson to live up to his name.
You could use, I always trade the blood of my enemies for effect unless the blood of a friend is required, by etching some sort of sigil in Hard's arm or maybe his legs, or I don't know. Hard, you tell me, where does this like special blood sigil have to be etched that will let you temporarily leap into the air like the Incredible Hulk, allowing you to maybe try to hit this thing with a hammer?
That's the goal.
That sounds like it needs to go somewhere in the quad or calf area.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. Yeah, maybe definitely ones, on both sides. What's the sigil look like that you have to do to do this this incantation or whatever? What's the sigil for giving Hard Markinson the super jump ability from Crackdown?
It's like an anarchy symbol.
Okay,
I don't know.
Hell yeah.
Like it.
Yeah, it just matches perfectly with a number of other tattoos that are already down there.
Yes,
yes, perfect. Then yeah, you've done that. It's a +2. It's a +2. Nothing's trying to counter you on that, which now gives Hard what he would need if you want to try to knock this thing out of the sky with the hammer. You can attempt it.
Yeah, I was already angling toward the idea of like looking at the hammer, looking at the thing, looking at the hammer, looking at the thing, trying to decide how to do it. So that saves me a little bit of that trouble.
Love it.
So I'm going to, with my newfound leg powers, do a full-on running sprint at this thing. When I get within what I consider to be leaping distance, I am going to basically do like a full-on squat. And I am just going with the hammer in hands. I am going to do, and I'm sorry for referencing this particular movie, the straight up like 300 fucking like giant slow motion hammer leap right at this thing, and I am going to full on every ounce of strength in my body I have, swing it down on the framework of this ghost ship.
It echoes, it reverberates through the entire town. The buildings shake and quake. Some of them, paint flakes come off. A brick loosens. One of the pairs of glasses on one of the pilgrims shatters. But the fish remains. There is a new sentence in town. This is the +3 sentence. Once I am risen, as long as my hidden power source remains pristine, I am unstoppable.
+3.
Well, shit.
I'm putting down the undead orphan vessel.
Okay.
So cross out the ephemera. It can't be used for its means for the rest of the scene.
Whoa. Oh my god. Well, now we're screwed.
Yeah. You can still you can still ring the bell with it. You can still use it.
You can use it as a weapon, though.
Yeah.
But it can't be used for that sentence. Yes.
Right. It's one use as a weapon has been done, and it cannot be used again in this scene. Got it.
In this scene. That is right. Exactly right.
Is there a way I could cash in my token or something like that to boost what I have?
Not retroactively. You can't now do it because you were using it against. This again is the value of the defender going second is, the counterer goes second. They get all the information. I will say, this is another place where I think home games might choose differently here. In fact, I was just talking to someone who's actually in the chat right now, Cy Sweetman, who was a playtester. We talked about this the other night. I think in Cy's home game, they've been running it where the attacker, the actor, gets to know the sentence before they decide the token use. For me, the thing that just happened is part of why I like not getting to know the sentence. You have to decide on the token first, because sometimes you have a +3 and you're like, well, this is definitely going to work, right? So yeah, I need this power source remains. As long as this power source remains pristine, I am unstoppable. Of course, if you could find the power source and break it, obviously that would change.
That's the question I had. So the word pristine gives me a particular nugget of information here, and I would assume that since this was a combined effort, Flugan would have the same knowledge of the sentence that I would.
Yeah, I think everybody in this moment sort of, the way I think about this, without getting too far up my own ass, this is a game written, as I'm immediately all the way up my own ass, this is a game written by people inside of the world of Realis, and they see the world of Realis a particular way. The word writes believe that Realis works according to this sort of narrative logic. They don't necessarily believe that the people inside understand that everything is made up of these sentences, but they do believe that everyone has a sort of intuitive sense. Do you know that stuff? And in Yakuza, when Kiryu sees someone do something sick, and he goes like, "I get it," or whatever, and he learns how to do it. The word writes believe that that's what's happening. So I think in this moment, it's not that you would say the words, "Oh, the undead orphan vessel has the sentence, once I am risen, as long as my hidden power source remains pristine, I'm unstoppable." But you know it in your heart. If we could only
perceive it.
The power source somehow. Exactly. Yes.
Two things here. Okay.
Yeah.
One, so if I were to use a bond with hard, does it need to beat that +3, or depends what we're doing?
Depends on what you're doing, right?
Depends on what we're doing. Okay.
The reason that this worked is that the undead orphan vessel was specifically attacked in a way that was about trying to stop it, right?
And it's
narratively, and it's unstoppable. What it's trying to do right now primarily is get the two riders that it has off its back, which is you and Celia, you Hard and Celia.
I'm still up there. Okay.
I imagine so. Maybe not. If you want to be on the ground, you can be on the ground. You still have your super jump legs, right? So
you know what? I like that. I like that.
But it won't necessarily use it against you. There's a part in the book where I'm like, GMs, this is not a game about playing oppositionally. There are other good games about playing oppositionally. Go play D&D 4th edition if you want to do a little tactical gameplay thing. Play with your players. And I think for me, that's a sentence that comes up around trying to stop it, or it continuing to exist into infinity. You know what I mean? Something like that. But I'm not going to use it to smash. That's not the sentence it's using to like smash into things. It has a different sentence for that, effectively. you know.
So what I'd like to do, seeing this, I feel like Celix would know. He'd clock what's going on here about this. Like they always have there's a power source. Like he knows ships, he knows engineering, and Hard is from the same place as me, but sometimes they don't act like they remember that. He would know we've worked on ships like this before. He would know that there's a power source that is hidden inside some of these ships that can deflect, blows like this.
Yeah, totally.
And so I would be thinking about this bond we have. Like he knows, and he knows Hard knows, and he also knows Hard always knows the way to something. Hard always somehow Hard always has the right directions to find something.
Yeah, I love this. This is good.
He believes in him.
Yeah, this is Hard. Hard is from the same place as me, but they act like they don't remember that. You did a job once where you were working on an orphan vessel like this that was like a demolition job. You were sent out to break down some sort of ship together, and nothing. No matter what you did, you couldn't get through this thing. Sort of like the shield of its soul, effectively. And you found out that the seventh rib left actually contained its like eternal power source. And so if you could break into that rib, you could find the actual source of its power and destroy that, or even just scuff it up. It really is. It needs to be pristine, like you said. So yeah, you're able to remind him of that.
And I'm gonna say, in that moment when we were on that ship, maybe in the past, Celix is kind of they're from the same place, but not from the same place. He was kind of shocked. Hard was like, "How do you know this stuff, man? Where are you from?
Right?
You, man, yeah, that's good. Hard. I wouldn't have thought about that. It's we are we're simpatico. We have a lot of his stuff, same stuff, but he didn't grow up with me. It's not that kind of origin.
Yeah.
Well,
I like
back when Hard was having to fight with the snake trains, he was looking for the power source on those things too. So he doesn't know why he remembers that. He just knows that he remembers that.
Yeah. All right. I think to me, you're using that sentence, Vinny, which means that Celix has communicated this to Hard, but Hard's still the one up there and has to go do it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. So Hard, how do you execute on this plan?
So who am I up there with? It's one of the Inquisitor's kids.
It's one of the Inquisitor's kids. It's Celia.
Okay.
Or not Celia. Yeah, Syria. Syria Blood, the zealot.
Syria Blood.
Who always wields an unpredictable weapon, her chain spear. And she's like, to the ground, foul beast. I'll have your blood even if you have none left. She's having the time of her life. Oh my God, what a good day she's having.
Fantastic. I'm very annoyed about that while I'm up there, but I'm going to let that slide for the moment, and I'm going to just try to get her attention to say, I guess what I would communicate is that I know where the power source is. I just need a momentary stability to get to it. Can you wrestle it to the ground?
Oh, that's really fun. How are you going to convince her of that? Because I think it sounds like your intention is to get her to give you the opportunity, right? Do you have any good that could bring her on board in that way?
I think what I would say to her.
Sorry, I'm looking for a means here is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a sentence or or something else.
No, that's what I'm looking at right now. And so what I'm thinking. So what I'm thinking is, since I know that the Inquisitor and these people know my ship, I can just say them, the Tin Man is my ship. I know how this shit works. Get it down.
I love it. That is, I always pilot my orphan vessel Tin Man with great skill as long as I'm sober, showing the flexibility of the sentence here. You don't need to be piloting it for that sentence to be useful. Your
the knowledge to be there.
Yes. I do. Are you sober right now?
Yes, I'm about as sober as I have ever been in this moment.
Perfect. I think, she says, Markinson, you ride with me today. And whips the back of the chain around the thing's sort of neck to give a little extra leverage. And she says, "Hold on tight," and pulls back with everything she has, driving the head of the thing down into the kind of coastline, crashing against, like, through the wooden docks. And giving you just the second you need to get to. You're holding on with all your might. You're crawling from rib to rib. You get to the seventh rib, and are able to, like, break it open. And there is a sort of the marrow, the, like, gooey marrow, the pristine gooey marrow, is now available for you to, like, fuck up.
And so what I'm going to do
in there, yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is, once I have torn that thing open, I'm going to reach into my pockets, which were not scrubbed clean, because basically the top half of me is completely clean from where the scrubbing bubbles were, but there's still some grime kind of in and around, like, my legs and my pockets and stuff. And so what I pull out is the filthiest screwdriver you've ever seen in your life. A screwdriver that has somehow been, like, rust has taken hold in the minutes since I was last there. And I pull it out, and I just shove it straight into that marrow, dust, grime, rust, disease, whatever the fuck is in there, and just rub it up and down as much as possible.
The thing continues to shake and shiver, and then eventually clatter to the ground in a pile of bones, like a skeleton in an old movie, and in a what do you call it movie, like the Sinbad movies. What are those? Harryhausen? Is that right?
Yeah.
Harryhausen. Yeah, like that style of stop motion. Yeah, exactly. The Harryhausen style.
Love it.
And yeah, there's quiet finally here for a moment. And I think Saria turns to look at you hard, as if, like, the blood is like in her now, right? She's in her, like, berserker rage almost. And then she, like, spits off the corpse, like, and down into the abyss below. And she says, "You've earned reprieve from me. I'll tell my father to let you be." Which I didn't intend to rhyme, but I guess she rhymes sometimes now. And reaches down and hefts up one of the big, like one of the huge bones of this thing, maybe a fang or something. She puts a fang in a pocket and then hefts up one of the big rib cage bones, the rib bones, and, like, almost like arms around it behind her back, like a staff or something, and begins to walk away so that she can, bring it back to camp and, turn it into a new axe or something in, like, a Monster Hunter way. And it has come to a stop. There's quiet in the air, except, again, every 18 seconds, round a ruin, run over and over again. But you're free to move. You're able to move freely here.
Can I use a moon sentence to check on the fate of the people who were attacked by this thing?
Oh yeah, totally. Do you want to spend a token to do that?
No, I just want to. Can I just use one?
You have to spend a token to use a moon sentence.
Oh, interesting. Oh, to use one or to write one?
Either way. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Again, a great place to hack if people, if home gamers want to just let moon sentences be free to use whenever. It gets a little powerful because they can be so broad, but still fun. I mean, you can also just narrate a little bit here, right? What's the thing that you are trying to make true?
So I would love for the people who are attacked to actually start getting back up. And seem okay. Because the Thrummer's chosen pilgrims are always allowed to access the vessel.
Oh, interesting.
And
fun.
They should not be attacked for accessing the vessel, the Thrummer.
They were attacked, so it would be more like something about this prevents them from dying, because they were attacked. They were right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So but they should be okay because they're allowed to access the vessel. Like
I think then you should spend a token. That's a pretty big.
That's a pretty
big thing. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
If you don't want them, okay. Now wait a second. I'll let you not spend a token if you let me do a little narration here. If you give me the authorial pen on what getting back up
keys to the car.
Yeah.
Can I? Okay. Oh man, could I spend the token and? Could I explain something to you and you tell me if you would be okay with this?
Yeah, 100%.
could we spend the token and make it look like Flugartha is channeling the god to make these pilgrims rise to be healed, to impress the sea, to basically
to like clear your name effectively, or like get on their good side, or
maybe to give us some birth to be like hey,
so you don't have to run screaming out of here.
Yeah, who's touched by
by the material one for real?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, I like this. Flugartha, are you good with that? Are you happy with being perceived to be the powerful source of resurrection?
Well, like that probably confers some amount of influence on me, so sure.
Oh yeah. All right, spend your token. As I think actually, as you're like pretending to raise them up, you actually do feel what would have happened had you not stepped in. And it's easy for you to kind of counter what was going to happen, because it's like it's sort of like an amount of life was being poured into them to resurrect them from the ship, from the sound of the thrumming. But you kind of actually like put a stop in the hose, the hose of life, before too much got into them. Because what was going to happen is they were going to lose their faces and become possessed by these ancient spirits that were here once. And you're able to put a what do you call it? Not a cinch in the, but like a knot in the hose, so
like a kink, like to bend it.
A kink in the hose, exactly, before the spirits could come down the sort of hose of souls into their bodies. And so they're able to just get back up, thankfully. Somehow, they're scarred. They might even be debilitated in some way long term. But they are alive again in a way that some of them should not have been. And they all turn to look at Flugartha, who is now, in the bell tower above them.
Like Celix is going to be like, Flugartha, you've done it again. Because wasn't Flugartha the impression he gave was that they'd seen a miracle and stuff had happened?
And was specifically the leader of your little group of 3 people. You know what I mean? I think everyone is impressed.
And we work for Flugartha, right? Like we were like, So like Celix would be like, praise Flugartha, you've done it again.
Now I do think that he gave a different name than Flugartha, but I think the Inquisitor in this moment will just assume that this is some sort of
it's like an honorary title.
Right. The Flugartha.
Flugartha Eustace Fliprock to you.
Right, of course, right. Eustace Fliprock, of course. Thank you very much.
Yeah, 100%. But we mere mortals could never use that name. That's a you say that name, you incur the consequences.
100%.
Was that my token that burned for that?
I think Vinny
I used mine. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a little complicated because what Vinny was doing was using a moon sentence there.
Right.
Yeah. And as long as you're good with that, you can someone else can spend it and you can be part of that sort of action.
Got it. And one other point of order, real quick. Are the struck through abilities back on the table? Was that the end of a scene, or those are still off?
Point, that feels like the end of a scene for me. So everything that's struck through should now be unstruck as things come to a sort of calm, beat. I wouldn't say resolution yet. There's still whatever's behind the drawbridge, but
even the ephemera, or that is done.
Even the ephemera.
Oh wow,
yeah, that's the end of the scene. I think the scene was, can you get rid of the big undead orphan vessel? So yeah.
And then for Celix's sheets, does that I always remind people of their origins go back to, do I get rid of
that? Still no, because that's the end of a session. That stays home,
not a scene.
Now.
Okay.
Yep, not a scene. Correct.
But simple.
Important, because that means, like, for instance, you couldn't use that to someone who doesn't share your origin. The Inquisitor does not share your origin. That's for instance.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
But I always find an effective solution works. And you get the birth you hoped for here. I think the Inquisitor calls up to you and says, I will escort back the pilgrims.
Nice.
Take your time. You seem able to handle yourselves fine. I also rhyme sometimes, apparently. It runs in the family. It's a family thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Escort back to the sea station.
They're just they're gonna get escorted back to what do they call it? The retro choir, which is it's like a station behind the place where singing is happening, right? So the retro choir.
So they're out.
Choir QIRE, but yeah.
Right. So they're out. They're not headed for the drawbridge. They're just gone.
They are not headed for the drawbridge. They are just gone. I think you catch a few of them leaving with things that they found aboard the vessel, giving you a little clue as to what was maybe really going on here, which is, sure, one of them donated their wrench factory or whatever the fuck I said 2 hours ago.
I think that's what you said.
They're effectively paying the church to let them come grave dig in this ancient ship. And they're leaving with stuff that's way more valuable than what they tossed into the acid or what they donated to the church. So this is sort of like it's a pilgrimage, but really it's a way that the greatest supporters of the church are able to come cash in that influence and go home with ephemera of their own, or relics of great wealth or great worth and power, stuff like that. So yeah.
Would they have assumed that we were of the same ilk?
100%.
Okay.
Until now, at least. I think at this point, the Inquisitor is like, aha, I've heard, Hard Markinson was identified, but you did just save a bunch of their most powerful and rich, supporters' lives, and did something that seemed kind of incredibly holy. And the immaterial one works in mysterious ways. Sometimes you just let it ride. There will be other opportunities to be an Inquisitor at you sometime in the future. Especially if you do the Elmer Fudd, Inspector Zenigata style, like recurring annoyance, thorn in your side. There will be other times to get you. Is how he thinks.
Hogan.
Exactly that.
So did the drawbridge
got a free hand?
I don't know. Sorry, say that again. You've not opened it yet. That's correct. What were you asking, Brad?
Got a free hand. We've basically got a free hand in here now.
100%. You're alone in here as far as you can tell. Yeah.
Is Xena still with us?
Yeah, Xena is still with you, I think.
Okay.
I guess that's a choice that I think she says, I failed my mission. I should go. Good luck to you all in here. And is just going to turn and walk out of your life.
Wait. Celix is definitely like, no, like runs after you. Like, you can't go.
I've already put myself in enough hot water, Celix.
Come with us.
Using your full name. Come with you. My life is with the guild.
Come with. Just take a break from the guild for a little bit. Come with. Spend the rest of our time here together. And he coughs because the poison's still
it's still deep in there. Yeah. You developed the classic anime dad cough. You're slowly dying for the rest of the show.
Just speckles of blood fly. Yeah.
Do you have a sentence you're using? Do you have a means to use here? I think you do, but
curious. I mean, I could always use I remind those in positions of power of our shared origins.
I don't know
still
that she's in a position of power anymore. Yeah. Ironically, I think you've disempowered her in a pretty big way.
Let's see. What would I use? Okay, I would try and use. I always find a simple but effective solution to be like, look, you can go back to your life for the rest of your life, but these hours, just give them to us for now, while we're here. It's a simple but effective solution to the problem.
+1, I always find a well-paying job from the guild. I counter it.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I wish things had been different between us. I'm glad you're alive.
I burned my dream. This is it. This is the dream.
She turns to go. She's steps onto the wooden walkway, you can feel her literally as the light in here, begins to, which by the way, we didn't even talk about where the light in here is coming from. I guess there's giant lights hanging from above. There's you know what it is? There are the etched circles, this kind of runic, the round circle that the faces. It's just a single, like almost like a giant chalk outline, and each of those glows and emanates a sort of light above to light this place up. There's like 5 of them, giant above you, but there are shadows everywhere here, and you can see that she's starting to fade back into shadow, to disappear. She is using I always disappear into the dark. You're countering it with your dream. What do you do? What is your final appeal here?
If you're gonna leave, you might as well take that knife back out and kill me right here.
And the shadow passes over her. It goes away. She disappears for a second, and then when the light comes back and kind of waves back in, she's turned around and walking back towards you on the bridge. And she says, "Fine. Let's open that door."
And he goes to he wants to give her a hug.
Yeah.
But he moves a little and then just gives a nod. And doesn't touch her.
Yep. Yep.
He's just happy
to take a little
here.
time to become the family again. Yeah.
That's right.
All right. Time to ring the bell? ?
Oh man.
Sure.
Ring the bell.
All right. Climb the tower. The tower has this perfect view. On one side is the giant aperture facing outwards into space. The other way is the huge drawbridge. Hard, are you ringing the bell?
I mean, I got the hammer. I'm more than happy to be the ringer of the bell.
Yeah. As you do, you can feel the spirit of the bell keeper kind of around you. Big, literal ghostly arms, around your arm. Like a fucking Elden Ring boss that has the spirit version of themselves around them. And you hit the bell, and it goes.
And as he's slow motion, hitting the bell, and the stuff is happening, Celix is just looking up at his daughter, who's staring in the distance, just so happy, framed by the light that's coming in here.
I love it.
The bell is reverberating
at this
off.
point. Yeah, and then she's framed by the wooden, the giant wooden bridge, which begins to lower, and you see a few things. First, the most beautiful sky you've ever seen. Somehow, in this ship, there is a valley. The sky is lavender and violet. There is sunlight passing through soft clouds. Wisteria grows from the hills and the mountains. In the distance, you see a formation of knights on horseback chanting. And they are chanting what you've been hearing, all of them, all of their voices becoming one here: round, ruin, rune, run, round, ruin, rune, run. And then you see something else, huge, moving through the valley, climbing up the mountains, a vast worm. One of the worms of the blister, a sort of mythical creature that can devour anything that it approaches, except this one's bigger than the ones you've read about. It's somehow as big as the ship itself, and you've opened the door. It moves towards the drawbridge, and it looks, its eyes hungry, out the aperture onto the galaxy of moons beyond. And I think, somewhere around here, maybe Flugartha, you've pieced together what this place is. This is sort of the vacuum cleaner of space. Whatever this ancient civilization was, used to deploy this ship when it was time to eradicate a moon. I think maybe there's this sort of clay tablet we described in the little booth that's up here, and it's showing a simple like stick figure hieroglyphic animation of what happens when the bell is rung. The bell is rung so that a moon can be destroyed and a new moon made in its place. These were like moon makers. These were people who had such mastery over words and language that they could bring new things into being through the creation, the drawing of certain runes of power. And when it was time to make more space for another moon, first you had to get rid of one of the established 1,000, and so you let the worm out. You let out this creature. This isn't even the full one. This is a nascent one. This is if we were going to keep going here, I would add the nascent ruin worm to the sentence. In fact, I think actually I will at least add this one sentence to it, because as it's coming towards you, you can see that like the wisteria all through the valley is lifted up and like rejoins the body of the worm, and it keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger. It has the sentence, "When the grand bell tolls, I always reconstitute my body." And so these worm keepers, these rune worm keepers, are serving their duty. They're keeping the valley ready, because the valley itself becomes the worm, and it's headed towards you. It's headed towards the now open drawbridge and to the system of moons, hoping, eager to get its first meal in thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And this is where we'll end for the day.
Can I add one last scene before we go? Can we do
please.
that? Celix does that like weird inset shot, jittery, like Pinky touches his daughter's hand as they like see the worm coming, and the daughter like grasps his hand back.
Yeah.
And then just cut to black.
Cut to black. That's Realis.
You hear this. But after it cuts to black, you hear the sound of the hammer clanking to the floor.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and the sound of like stuff shaking, because the hammer works again. So
it just broke the bridge.
Who knows? Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, that was awesome.
All right.
It was a gentle clank.
Thank you, guys. Okay, very gentle, very careful. You're trying not to sound a whatever peal, a shattering peal.
No.
So that's Realis. Yeah.
Can I tell you I was feverishly looking at everything I have, try to figure out a way to betray all of you and take control of that worm.
I mean, I think if we had another 2 hours, that's the session we would have to play out,
100%.
Unfortunately, we are 10 minutes from our stop time.
That's a
and we have an
ending
hour-long
spot.
window of stop time, so I didn't want to kick us in to only let people down.
I was all ready to become the 1,000th moon right there.
I mean, this is it, right? Yeah, we get the shot of the glistening of power in your eye, like, you couldn't have imagined it was what a gift you were given,
Like everybody's horrified. Everybody's horrified except for there's a smile.
Yeah.
The ability to create and destroy moons is the most JRPG ass ability.
Hell yeah.
You can imagine.
Yeah, in a way, it's sort of like, please, people at home, run with this. We've just set up a really fun campaign, which is like, this is the origin of the great villain, the charioteer of the ruin worm, who is destroying moons. Figure out how to stop Brad.
Flugartha the Great, that people now like revere, right? Because like those pilgrims will spread the word, right?
Spread the word. Yes. Yeah, you're a saint now, effectively, to them, right? Ooh, it's good. Juicy.
Yeah. Listen, cults have gotten started with less.
Easily. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm so glad we had you to run us through it, because in practice everything just makes so much more sense. Like, not that it was too obscure, but like just using it and
in practice, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah,
it's such a funny game because every time I sit down when I was doing like my revisions for this version of the game, I was like, I gotta trim from the rules. There's too many rules. It's like 40 pages of rules or something. It's not that complicated, but it is that complicated. It's just that once you know the rules, it moves pretty quickly,
Right.
And just as a quick, illustration, if we were now ending the session, we would be marking some sentences. Again, you could mark a sentence if you worked towards achieving your dream. Vinny, you could definitely do that. I generally give the advice that players should be really generous with themselves there. You know, you don't have to have like achieved a big thing. Like Flugartha should definitely mark that a sentence for that, because, you know, even if you didn't achieve your goal here, you can see it really clearly.
Even if my dream were gone, do I still mark it?
Even if you'd succeeded it, I believe, as long as you're working towards it, you still get to mark it. Because even if you spent your dream, it doesn't mean you've given up your dream. It just means you don't have that extra gas in the tank that you might need to achieve it when push comes to shove. You'd mark another sentence based on how you played, but that one that you didn't mark while playing, you'd write down to make sure that you have if you're playing in person, especially, hey, I have my token. You'd write that down on your sheet. I have my token right now. Because if you had a physical token, it doesn't tell you, right? And then you make sure everything was marked right. You review your bonds, your dreams, your ban sentences, and that's the end of a session. And that's Realis. That's how it goes.
That's great.
Love it.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
It's fun.
Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome. So Austin, before we go, do the pitch again. Where can folks find it and listen to it and check it out?
Absolutely. You can find Realis at thecalcutech.itch.io or at possible-worlds-games.itch.io. Just go to itch.io and search for Realis. I think you might even be able to just do a Google search or a DuckDuckGo search for Realis at this point, Realis, and find it. I just did a search on my computer, and I am now beating Realis, the cryptocurrency mobile game on blockchain that released the same day as my game.
What?
Nice.
Cursed. I was so upset.
That's really messed up.
So upset. There's obviously no relation, and they couldn't have known, but really bad luck for me. But it turns out I'm beating them in SEO, so fuck them.
Good.
Yeah.
And then you can go there. It's $15 to get this Ashcan edition. There will be a couple of small typo changes and stuff like that. I'm gonna add bookmarks to it, but it'll be a kind of like that version of the book. And there'll be a bigger, even better version of the book later this year that you should be able to, or I guess maybe early next year that you'll be able to pre-order. We're aiming for pre-orders early next year with physical copies and stuff by mid next year. That's the dream. That's the dream. I'm trying to hold on to.
Don't give up that dream.
Yes, and I'll say, even this is an early edition of the game, it is a pretty hardy book. It is a pretty filled book. There are 20 classes. There are 40 NPCs of the type that you saw me use. Things like the Zealot and the Inquisitor are in there. Mm-hmm. There are 3 grand factions. I don't think the Venerancy or the Rune are in there, so that's a little preview of what's to come. There are 3 example moons. There's actually a 4th one that's kind of hidden throughout the game that you could build yourself if you find all of the hidden sentences. And it's like 125 pages. There's a bunch of cool art in there. In fact, Vinny, if you go to page 22, you can see Sam Beck's version of the valley we were just describing with the Rune. There they are with their faces removed.
Wow.
These cool ancient knights with the wisteria coming up the columns. Yeah, the horses. Aren't the horses so sick? Yeah,
those are fucking sick, man.
Yeah, Sam Beck crushed this art. I'm so glad more people are getting to see it. So that is Realis. Thank you so much for hosting me to play.
Of
this.
course.
We didn't have
it was a delight, man.
Trains, but we did get an undead ship, a fish ship, which I think is a sort of elevation or an evolution of the old snake train. So
definitely,
mission accomplished.
And Brad, what'd you think? You said before you haven't played a lot of tabletop stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is
great.
Thank you. I mean, I like how linguistic this is. Like as a lit major, like having mechanics be extremely open to interpretation. And double meanings and stuff like that gets really fun.
It's so fun, and it's
to your purposes.
100%. I think that's for me a big part of the joy. Part of one of the main inspirations I said before was Berserk. The way that the characters start really big and blocky and bold, and then they change and become more nuanced. Another huge influence was Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe, which I did a book podcast. I'm doing a book podcast now with Michael Lutz and Cameron Kunzelman from Range Touch called Shelved by Genre. We went through the Book of the New Sun books, and that is a series that plays with truth and language a lot. It's sort of a post-apocalyptic science fantasy series about a torturer with perfect memory who may or may not also be holy, depending on your perspective. And huge, the parts of that are a lot like Borges stories, or there's a lot that's kind of like, you have the information, but there's something missing, there's something hidden, or you have the truth, but there's a side to it, not just narratively or plot wise, but in terms of like how the world works that you haven't quite thought about yet. And that was a huge influence. And so, yeah, literature super high on the list of inspirations for this game, along with, like, I was just telling somebody else, stuff that is truly, I am the only person I know who deeply cares about it, or I'm one of 4 people, like Reign the Conqueror, the anime about sci-fi Alexander the Great. Huge influence on this game. Don't expect anybody else to notice that at all, because who else watched that at all? So yeah, that's Realis. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you, Brad. Thank you, Alex. Thanks everybody for tuning in and watching, and for supporting Austin. Go check out Realis and throw your support in there. Support.
And if you want to hear more of it,
endeavors.
you can go to friendsoftheTable.net and friendsoftheTable.cash to hear more Realis. I will tell you, the soundtrack to that has been incredible. Jack DeKeat is doing a 6 soundtrack. And I will tell you, one of the names of the songs on that soundtrack is Pig Magic. And you'll have to go listen to the podcast to learn why there is a song called Pig Magic.
Okay. I'll always check out Pig Magic.
Always check out Pig Magic. Yes, thank you. Thank you for using the proper.
Yeah. Vinny always checks out
Pig Magic. +1 sentence, because it was originally Vinny always checks out magic, and then you realize it to be Vinny always checks out Pig Magic.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody. Have a great weekend. And enjoy yourselves out there, and go get into your own collaborative storytelling.
Do it. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Support each other. All right, everybody. Take it easy. Bye.